Yeah, yeah, chemical catalyst rattling, never hazardous. Subdued by all my memories, but never been a pacifist. So quick to put up the fist, it's hard to resist, but I just might lose control. So shoot, and I never do miss. I gotta take.
We're on.
Oh, we're live.
We are here.
That's
The boys are here.
We've made it. That's us. God damn.
Hello,
how's
everyone.
doing?
Welcome. This is fuck the timer. We don't need the timer around here. But welcome to the first inaugural episode of the Mayor's Office. Me and Carl are going to be going over a couple of things today pertaining to us and Street Fighter. Maybe some other topics if we have the time. Carl, go ahead, introduce yourself. Everyone already knows you, but just throw your ballot in the pot.
Just in case, yeah. So, Callum Suter, Edinburgh, I'm a SoundBoi, is what I'm known as, in the circles that I'm in. But, yeah, we both play Cody. We're both fucking pretty good.
I'd say we're decent.
Yeah, decent's probably the best way to put it. But, yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to talk about some topics, not just Cody.
Obviously we'll branch.
The meme is the Cody podcast, but we're not just memeing about how bad we think Cody is. But, yeah, we've got some topics coming up I'm looking forward to talking about.
I've got to just say for like the first 30 seconds, me and Cal were memeing about this for how long were we saying this should be a thing, mate?
Quite a while.
Obviously, it started off as a bit of a joke, innit? But then I'd say like 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what, Cal, let's do it. Let's do it, lad.
Yeah, because the thing is, it started as a meme. Because actually, do you know what it was? It was One Step that brought this up to me. Do you remember we played Halo Reach about a year ago? Genuinely, about a year ago. Mm. And it was in that time, I started moaning about Cody's Stand Heavy Punch.
Oh my, yeah, that was the first time.
Like, yeah, that button, by the way. Blah, blah. And we went on for about 45 minutes about a single button. And one was in silence the entire time as this third wheel in the chat.
He was like, guys, just make a podcast,
like,
God.
At the end, he was like, you might as well start a fucking podcast. We were like, haha, yeah, that'd be funny. And
yeah, we should. And then
now.
Slowly but surely, I was like, you know what? We should do that, to be fair.
Look at us now. This is where we're at.
So, first thing we want to bring up today, if everyone's around and ready for us to get started, we wanted to talk about rival routers because that was something that's super prevalent to both of us as players at the moment. It's a tournament that we just finished off. Cal's team got second. My team went out in group stages, unfortunately. But we wanted to just talk about like the lead up to that and how we kind of formed our teams and looking at the other scenes, looking ahead of who we had to fight, who would be a problem and such, and just talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was when was it actually on? It was on like 4 days ago or something now. Maybe
it wasn't
5
too long
days
ago. It was very recent still.
It's still super recent, but it was a hell of an event, and I personally put a lot of prep into it. You actually put in more prep than me, Boggins, because you had a tournament to decide your team.
What a segue!
He's in the chat, right? And I DM'd him immediately going, we're playing together, and he knows who he is. But you actually had a tournament to prep for your team.
I did. I hosted Masters of the Midlands as the team that we had for the Midlands region. It wasn't based off of a local scene because the Midlands scenes are quite small. Electronic Dojo moved away from Tekken events like quite a while. From Street Fighter events quite a while ago, and they focused Tekken, Smash, Granblue a little bit now as well. But Street Fighter is like an afterthought for Electronic Dojo now, and West Midlands Fighting are a much smaller kind of homegrown scene, and I don't think MQS approached those immediately. So I was made captain for that team, and instead of basing it upon a single local scene, I just based it upon the entirety of the Midlands. If you're from the Midlands, you can come and play in this tournament, and if you get top 3, you'll be in the team, innit? And it was really fun in the end. Obviously, a couple of players couldn't turn up, but we had a really good turnout considering it was like my first tournament, and it was like really quickly thrown together. I don't think I was fully planned for it, but it went like quite smoothly. And we got Rush, we had Rainy, and we had Pussy Whipped / Anna in the top 3, and they were fantastic to do rival raiders with, honestly. I don't think I could have asked for a better top 3. The only thing I'm saying is thank God Tom B wasn't in there because Tom B is whack. I'm kidding, Tom, I love you.
I know Tom hates Cody. That's about as far as
Tom really does
I
Cody.
know him.
Yeah.
I also want to say shout outs to Anna, to Pussy Whip for putting together the overlay as well.
Completely.
Thank you very much.
Completely.
Really appreciate that.
this beautiful. It's such an amazing layout, and thank you very much if you're in the chat. I really do appreciate it. You've done such a good job with this.
Incredible job. But watching Masters of the Midlands, I was really, really impressed because obviously you're seen, as you say, like it's not like a massive scene.
It's not. We're not a big scene at all.
Yeah, like I'm aware of you, obviously yourself, and I'm aware, like, who are you? No, but I'm aware of yourself, and I'm aware of Rush G. And to see you guys do work, I was like super impressed, and it was cool. It was really, really cool.
I think one of the things that really kind of shocked me was, again, you just mentioned him, Rush, because I thought Rush was like all right, but I didn't think he was that crisp because his neutral is genuinely amazing. He's such a good neutral player. The only flaws Rush has as a player are during rival race. We'll get onto it later. He had a couple mental mishaps. He wasn't completely there on the day, and I think Rush is honest to the T. He's a very incredibly honest player, and sometimes he gets Street Fighter 5. Doesn't check a dash. Eats a jump in like a haphazard jump in. His anti-airs are absolutely clean, but 1 in every 20 can go through, and that can be the rain there and then. But Rush's neutral during that tournament in particular, Masters of the Midlands, he outplayed every single person on the ground very hard.
I mean, I was in the chat. He did a punish on an Aegis activation.
Crouching medium kick Aegis, he punished it with super and activation.
Yeah,
that was absolutely
it with super.
clean.
Like incredible second activation, but like incredible reaction, and like his anti-airs were crisp, his decision making and neutral was crisp. So like, funnily enough, again speaking about rivalries, we had well me specifically, but we did talk about a couple of teams as a team ourselves. In my mind, there was like 3 big teams that I was really like kind of concerned about in the 1-to-1 format, especially. But like my like personal like hidden fourth was your team, purely because I know what the Cody Mirror is like. For a start,
it is a bit of a nightmare,
and we've played it. And Rush G doing what he did at that event, I was like, see if he shows up with that kind of drive, mental game, everything like properly like pristine, he's going to be a problem. Like legitimately, he's going to be a problem. So
yeah, for sure.
And you just happened to be in our pool, so I was like, oh great, if he's here, this team is going to be hard to beat.
You did play Rush in the Benta fight test, didn't you? First game on.
Yeah, so the first team we had to play obviously was yourself.
Yeah.
Your team. And I drew who is it? So I drew Rush.
Yeah, you drew Rush first game on, I believe.
No, the first game was Sully and Rainy.
Oh, was that the first game? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which Sully took. Then it was me against Rush G, and when I played him, I didn't. My game plan going in, I was like, well, I'm not going to jump at him. Obviously, his anti-airs are really crisp, really clean. Even when he's not having a great day, it seems to be the thing that is reoccurring.
It's his defining trait. His anti-airs are absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. So I decided to not approach in the air. And when I played him, he was making quite a few mistakes, and I was really, really surprised. I was like, maybe he's not having a good day. Which obviously, as a personal thing, I'm like, damn, that kind of sucks. As a player who was competing against him, I'm obviously kind of happy that he's struggling a little bit. I want to win, bro.
It's one of the best feelings. You're like, oh man, he's not playing his best today. I can do some stuff against him, but I could never usually
do whatever I want. EX Zonk, So thankfully, we managed to win that match, and you had to play Brian, and you beat Brian.
Yeah, I had to play Brian. Now, Brian is a strange case because I 110% expected Brian to be playing Chun or Guile because Brian had invested so much time into learning the hitbox. So I was shocked because I don't think the Chun matchup for Cody is great at all. I think that's most likely a 6-4 Chun favour, personally.
For sure.
And Brian's footsies, I ain't got to say anything about Brian. He's fucking amazing. His footsies are absolutely crisp. He's really good at whiff punishing, really good at controlling space with the buttons. But then I saw Nakali, and I was like, I have not seen this pick from Brian for a very long time because as far as I was aware, Brian was a Blanka player, and then he moved on to hitbox with Chun-Li Guile. I didn't think he'd still played Nakali. I didn't think he pulled them out very often.
So the last time he was at Glasgow, the locals, Maximum Impact Gaming, we went there, and he was explaining to me parts of the Nakali matchup because he was training it at the time with Infectious, and his Nakali is super clean. It's really, really good, and he explains how the game plan works and how his mindset is when he plays Nakali, and it's really, really interesting because he's super, super intelligent. So when we were sort of referenced that towards when he was making character picks, because we knew the tournament was character locked. obviously I play Cody, right? So it's always going to be Cody. Sully was obviously going to play Zeku. But Brian, being such a multi-character
he's
guy,
got so many characters.
He's got Cody as well. He plays nearly everybody. He's got Minat.
Oh my god.
He's got so many characters. But the big thing for him was obviously he's been playing lots of Chun-Li and Guile. But when we played the lounges, because we had like an hour to warm up, he picked Chun initially, and he was struggling with stuff like instant air legs, and he just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah,
he just wasn't feeling it. So he switched. And the two big picks for me, because he's mentioned Seth as well. He's been secretly training with Seth.
Yeah, you mentioned something about Seth.
He says it's not ready, so it's like, sure. So the two big picks were Nikali and Blanca. And the thing for Blanca is, if you aren't aware, Brian, his Blanca is ridiculous. Like, Loki, it's genuinely made me reconsider the character as a whole because of how good he is at Blanca. He got top 8 at EGX, like 2019 or something, maybe even 2018, I can't remember, playing Blanca. Just solo Blanca. And the big idea was, does he pick a character like that he's not played for a while that might not be as fresh? Or does he pick Nikali, who's like super simple game plan, super simple approach that he definitely has refined over time? Which one does he choose? And he picked Nikali, right? Because obviously it's the like simpler choice.
Yeah.
And he immediately regretted it. Like, basically instantly was like, I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
So the pick was surprising. It was a surprising pick for everybody, I think, which had a little bit of an advantage, but he definitely didn't agree with his own choices later on.
So I'm aware. So Brian is a multi-character specialist, and you mentioned something about Blanca and the reason you put him higher. I have in every tier list I've put Blanca A tier, and it's not because of anyone other than Brian. Brian is the one person who made me think, yeah, this character's absolutely nuts. It's not Wolfgang, it's not Nishikin, it's no other top player. But like seeing Brian play, because he had a mix of footsie Blanca, which I think is incredibly strong. His buttons are absolutely fantastic. He has Blanca ball, but he also had the dirtiest V-Trigger 2 setups I think I've ever seen.
He showed me the very first time making VT2 cross up and like he made all that. Like, I don't think he stole any of that.
That V-Trigger 2 corner mix up. That is his. He's the first guy that ever did it to me. I was like, which way was that?
Yeah. You're like, cross up.
He was like, oh, that one's a cross up. And I was like, how many cross ups do you have?
That's just so aghast. Like, there's ones in the corner where it's like one side and then the other side, and you're like, what the fuck?
It goes back and forth. You do not, luckily, you don't have to be a Cody main to watch this very exclusive podcast, Rush. But welcome to the stream regardless, everyone. I forgot to say hi.
Yes, and also thank you, Sully. It was 2018 he got top 8.
2018. Was Blanca out in 2018? Bloody hell.
Yeah, well, the thing was it...
was he just out? Oh, wait!
No. I think...
I played Brian in casuals with a week 2... Wait, it was banned? Weren't they banned? No, they were just unbanned after the 2-week ban, because if you remember correctly, in Season 3, they had a 2-week ban on new characters for tournaments. And I think it had just been broken for that. Now
that you mentioned that... Completely off topic, but I had the same problem with Cody for versus fighting because I just picked him up.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah, and then the ban broke, and I was like, right, I can actually play him. Like, perfect.
I got mopped at that first versus fighting with Cody. I was whack.
I did well.
I was really struggling to get.
I had to fight Gamer being fucking Gachi-kun. There's the two people that put me out.
The only thing I remember about that versus fighting, I'm getting a bit off topic, but we could just wonder, was I remember watching Daniel Dillips versus Infiltration in pools. Do you remember that legendary match?
That's incredible, man.
Daniel Dillips took Infiltration to the last round, and I've never seen Infiltration more confused in his life. He had no idea.
Props to Dillips, man. Like, to take it to someone like that.
Dillips was so calm and collected when he was sitting there. He stood up and he walked up to me and he went, could I have done anything better there? I was like, mate, you just took Infiltration to the last game last round. What the hell do you want me to tell you?
Yeah. Like, there's nothing else I can say.
Trust me, like, you did a good job. It's like, props. Incredible. But speaking of the Rival Rares teams, we've spoken about the middlemen. So I had myself, Rainy, Rush, Anna. Burn to Fight had Cal, SoundBoi, Sully, and Brian. We had in our pool, we had 2 more. We had was it Merseyside? Did they go under? They were just under the Merseyside team.
So NFC.
NFC. Sorry, yeah, thank you.
Booney, who plays Ryu. He's a really, really strong Ryu player. He's won that local a few times now. Kimte, who is an Akuma player. Ian, he's a really nice guy. He's also pretty good. and Corey, who is called Darth Rain. Now, no one
thank you
knew
for the
who
sub.
he was, right? No one knew him, other than like people that have been to NFC. So myself, MQS, and obviously the guys that he's playing with.
Mhm.
That guy is like the secret killer of that team. Like Booney and Ian are good. Corey is like the secret killer of that team because he essentially, before I even started competing, he was the guy that would give MQS a super hard time at NFC. He plays like Colleen, G, Cody, Cammy. Like, he plays like all these. He plays like nearly every character, and he plays them to like a really good degree. And yeah, he was a guy that was like 1 month it would be Ben that would win, the next month it would be Corey. But he's been on break for a while, and this was him coming back. So I was worried because I thought he'd been training in like super secret, and I didn't know, and he was just gonna like mess us all up. But thankfully, he's honestly genuinely a great player, so that was scary. But the other team was Kent.
Yes, Kent. Now Kent, I would say, were looking at the other teams. The main player from Kent, you probably will know him, Faxu, the Honda player. He was the main component of the Kent team, and I'd say the rest of the Kent scene isn't too well known as players. Yeah. Personally, it's a smaller scene, but according to Faxu, the Kent scene really did train hard for that tournament. They were running round robins, I believe they were running, to pick and choose who could play in rival rotors. So they put a lot of work into forming their team up. And they were most definitely a team that you would not expect to do too well in the tournament. I would like third, maybe like second, third, fourth, like around that. Like you wouldn't expect a first, but they did end up getting first out of their pool.
They got out of pools in first place, and I mean, and this is not a brag or anything at all. But Burnt to Fight were seeded first in the entire event, and we left that pool in second place, which is an upset. It's an upset. They beat our team, and it was completely unexpected. I mean, to be honest, when you look at their team, right? So remember, I was saying earlier, there was a couple of teams that we definitely thought about in terms of their strength, right? The two big ones, obviously, being Team Reason, because that's a scary ass team.
Obviously, very scary team to go into,
and Team WSO because it had an Evo champion in it, right? As well as two other ridiculous players. So those are the two big teams that we were scared of. But there was like a third team. My secret fourth was your team, but the third team that we really, really thought about was actually Kent, and it's because this team is scary as hell on a 1-to-1. Like you've got Faxu, who I would argue is one of, if not the best Honda in EU right now.
Yeah, I think
he's definitely up there. He's definitely in the top three
for sure.
And Honda in a 1-to-1, terrifying, right?
It's a matchup that can completely get flipped on its head if you get knocked down a single time.
Yeah, absolutely. They had Smokey Hayes, who's an Ed player, who I know of him. I knew of him beforehand, but honestly, and this is not a dig. I did not expect anything crazy. I thought he would do okay, and he did some. He had some
really cool stuff that I'd never seen from Ed before. I've fought a lot of Eds in CFN, and I've never seen the setups that Smokey Hayes pulled on me. It did shake me a little bit. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I was like, some of the setups were great, as well as he just played really, really well. I was like pleasantly surprised by the guy's performance, so that's always great to see.
Yeah.
And then the final guy was M16, who I genuinely didn't know before the event.
Yeah, we'll just call him M16 for this. We're not going to call him by the CFN.
But he's a Chun-Li player.
Yeah,
so you have, and he's a good Chun-Li player. So you had a Honda, Ed, and Chun in 1-to-1. With some of the matchups in these pools, that's a hell of a team in 1-to-1. Like, very, very good. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was our pool.
So I think for the tournament format, Kent had one of the strongest teams going, specifically for that group format when it was first to one. Their characters performed really well, but specifically the Chun-Li pick, a lot of the matchups that came up in that group specifically, Chun-Li was running really, really well into. Your team, she was beating, I don't know how the Zeku matchup goes, but I know that she beats Cody for sure, and I imagine that Nikali isn't that great.
She beats Nikali.
She probably beats Nikali quite through. And then in my team, you've got me, Cody. She beats Cody again. She beats Ken, I'm pretty sure. And I'm not sure how she goes in against Urian. It may be a 5-5 or it may be slight favour to Urian. I'm not sure. But I think that's a good matchup spread for Chun again. So I think Chun did really well, specifically just for our pool, the way it got drew out.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just a solid pick in general, but for our pool specifically, it seemed to have really, really good chances against players, just based purely on matchups. So this team was like low key, like scary, really scary.
Sure.
And like I said, we were favorites to go through, and they actually beat us. Like they beat our team, which was kind of an upset. I mean, we'll maybe show clips of that. Yeah,
we'll bring those up. We'll bring those up when we get to the to the content portion in it.
Yeah, for sure. But they beat us and then went through in first. Which was really, really cool. You know, really good for them. They've clearly trained hard for it, and it worked out. You know.
So you mentioned that you had like a list of teams that you were like genuinely scared of. I kind of had that, but I drew mine up a lot later. I waited until the group stages came up to see who we'd have to fight first because I didn't want to get ahead of myself. I didn't want to be like, right, I'm scared of WSO, I'm scared of Reason, I'm scared of B2F, in case we just didn't run into you guys. But when the group stages got drew out, strangely enough, because I thought the prospect of me fighting you in the mirror was going to come up, I wasn't too scared of B2F because I was like, I've played Cal a lot. It can go either way. I don't think it's going to be too heavily favoured if I get Cal. And the only one I was scared of in that team was Sully because I think first to one, Sully will beat my ass.
Well, this is the thing is like again. He knows, like I mentioned it earlier, but Sully was the person that I DM'd like immediately about the tournament when it was like talking about it. And like Sully's ability is not only is he just super knowledgeable on fighting games, and he just seems to pick up these fighting games and is just good at them.
It's just like clockwork.
He's just good at them, right? That's like you can't explain it. He's just good at them. But the way that he plays Zeku is super like active. Like his APM
he does a lot of stuff.
He's pretty aggressive and he makes it work. And that playstyle in first to one specifically,
it's very difficult
with
to deal
his knowledge is it's a ticket.
It's very scary to go into. I can tell you that firsthand. It's very scary to go into.
It's a ticket to grand finals, baby. And like I was like, when he jumped in. So again, looking at your team, I was thinking, so Smokey Hayes. Oh, sorry, that's not your team, is it? That's
Rainy, Rush,
yeah, sorry, Rainy and Rush. Sorry. So looking at like Rush G, I was like, I can probably fight Rush G, and I imagine if anyone else draws him, it should be okay.
Yeah.
Yourself, it could go either way between us, right? Either way, but in a first to one and a Cody mirror, I don't want to take those odds. You know what I mean? I don't want to take those
the first
odds
one to get land an Exonk into V Trigger 2 wins.
Whoever gets knocked down first tends to lose that round. So like, I'm good. So if Sully had to play you or Brian had to play you, I was like, well, that'd be better than me having to play you. And then Rainy, I've played before. I was super confident in that matchup. I like playing against Urian, so I don't mind.
Yeah.
But having Sully, like going back to what I was saying, having him on the team and having that kind of play style in a first to one, as well as the fact he's so good at it, it's just a recipe for success. I was like, any team we run into, he's got a really good chance just because
he can maul through a team on his own, honestly, in a first to one format.
Yeah, for sure. I think anyone in our team, not to brag, in a first to one format could have potentially won it themselves,
The strange thing about, like, again, the teams that you were scared of, bringing that up, mine was very, very far away from what I think anyone would expect. I was actually scared of NFC the most. Purely because it had Booney and Kimte in it. I do not like fighting Ryu. I do not like fighting Akuma. And the worrying thing about Akuma is I think Kimte is like a decent Akuma. Like, he can hold his own for sure. Especially against, like, Midlands players. We're not the highest caliber in the world. So I think Kimte had a great chance at just mauling through us. Akuma.
Yeah, and the thing is, actually, to shout out Kimte, he's just jumped in the chat there. To shout him out, he was the guy on their team that got wins.
Yeah.
I think their score overall, I think Ian was the only guy that won out of their team. And honestly, watching the games, I mean, he had a really good set against Brian. And even the matches that he lost, they were still close. Like, he played really well. And in terms of NFC, the only reason I wasn't super afraid was, like, I know Booney really well. We play a lot. So it's like that matchup's just player at that point. Ian, I've played a lot. He played super well that day, though. If I ran into him, I have no idea how it would have went.
Mm.
And against Corey specifically, because no one knew him, my thoughts were like, if he's been on break, I'm fine. If he's been playing like a lot, this might be a problem. So
Yeah,
that and the wild card, obviously, for your own team, not really knowing who that guy is, probably was a bit worrying as
you've
well.
got no prior knowledge of that player at all. First to one. My main component in that team, again, it was Booney, because I don't like the Ryu Cody matchup. I think it's still pretty bad, and Booney is. Whack. I'm just gonna say it right. I think Booney's the best. I think. Well, okay. There's Chomi, but I think Booney is quite easily a top 3 Ryu in the EU free.
Tijomi, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Tijomi. I think Booney's an absolutely incredible Ryu, and he's some of the best matchup experience I've ever got for the character. So I'm always a bit worried whilst playing Booney, because he has an incredible fireball game plan, and it's, for me, I find it difficult to V-skill 2 through a lot of these fireballs because he places them so well, and he sets up situations for the DP that I'll jump into like every day of the week.
Oh yeah.
Because I get
the thing about Booney, after playing him so much offline and online, the thing with Booney is when he's on form, and you can always tell because he'll get most, if not every, anti-air in the set. Yeah. He's like similar to Rush G on that front. If he gets those consistently and he's playing on form, it is a nightmare to deal with. Because
exactly, that's exactly what it is.
It doesn't matter you have sway, the ranges he'll throw fireballs from are ranges where it's not reactable. I'm doing it preemptively. Mm-hmm. And if he blocks a sway kick that's preemptive, it's
the standing light kick,
he's going to make it hurt. He'll burn bar and make it hurt. He can play the matchup well. I think he plays the Cody matchup really well. So in that regard, yeah, I mean, speaking about being like the best Ryu sort of EU-wise, I mean, I've not played Tommy or Xiaomi, however you say it, in a long time, so I don't know. But Booney's, I've said it since I've known him. I think he's up there for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
When he's on form,
absolutely no contest.
It's so hard to beat him. It's so difficult to beat him. So
the very first time I fought him, coincidence, the first time I met you offline as well. First time I fought Booney in a set. I went and sniped Booney up from the casual sets. I was like, mate, because he asked me to play earlier in the day. I was like, hey, do you want to play now? And he was like, yeah, sure, mate. And we pulled up the sticks and we started playing. And that's probably the scariest I've ever seen Booney play at that VSF pool, because he was feeling himself hard that day. The tech he was pulling on me, he was doing like dash in, back dash back, dash back in, raw tatsu to bait the throw, and I was like, stop, man, yo.
See, when he's feeling himself, his like call out is tatsu. Like, that's the thing. He is beating me with so many like just like, you're gonna tech tatsu, and it kills me, and I'm like, are you mad? Like, it was so risky, but it worked.
It works. It's exactly what like players like Daigo do with Ryu, because you've got to make those big call outs to like make these throws look like you're going to throw them, because Ryu's shimmy game, it's not that scary. If he walks back, he doesn't get too much. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, man, to cap that off, like, I think he's scary when he's feeling it. He's a scary guy.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I understand why you obviously feared that team completely. I don't know if you want to talk about the other teams. Like,
we can talk about the other side of the group. The other side of the group was a bloodbath. I find the group.
I'm very grateful I was not in that pool. I can't lie.
Yeah, that pool was absolutely absurd. It had all of the heavyweights in it. It had WSO. It had Reason. I believe there was another team hosted by was it Merseyside that was in that side?
Yes, there was Aberdeen, Merseyside, Reason, and WSO.
Aberdeen, yeah. That's the second Scottish-based team that had China in it.
Shout out to Risa Aberdeen. I'm very close with a lot of their players. And I felt so bad for their team.
It was such a bad draw.
And they got the pool with like the best fang in EU with 2 Abigails in their team. And I was like,
it was Van Zee, wasn't it? That was their third. So it was 2 Abigails.
So Risa Aberdeen had Gibbo, who's the TO for Aberdeen. He runs everything. He's a Vega player. He's a good guy. And I think honestly, if he played more, he'd be a lot better. So he's pretty good. You had China, who I'm sure everyone in here has played him at some point online. Abigail / Poison player. He's really good, and I think when he chills out, he plays quite aggressive most of the time. When he actually plays super relaxed, I think he's super scary to play against, because like he actually starts to check things and he like anti-airs super consistently, and it's hard. It's hard to fight Abigail like that. The final guy is Van Zee. who is my my close friend of like more than 10 years now, which is mad. Who got asked to join in, and he's a Abigail and a Karen player, and his Abigail is like, it's so raggo, but it works, man. He's really really good. So him and China had that, like, they like ran sets against each other, and it was like the worst thing in the world to watch. Someone from
Abigail Mirrors.
I hated it, man. But
Oh dear.
basically their team from the start, because I basically spoke to China about considering picking Poison purely because 2 Abigails with the potential of getting a pool of, like, you know, Vegas and Fang players and all that. I was like, I don't think I want to take that
it wouldn't
chance.
be worth it.
But they did. They went for it, and unfortunately they drew Reason in their pool. So I knew it was kind of scuffed from there.
Yeah, it was such a bad draw for him, and like again, Reason and WSO, I would say between them, they had some of the strongest talent in the EU at the moment, or the UK specifically. It was so condensed within those 2 teams for the top players. Bolt Strike could have probably entered as a one man team and 3-0'd a lot of different teams with Vega. Vega is incredible. WSO, I don't think we have to even explain any of these players. Shax,
they won
Hurricane, problem.
They didn't drop a single game.
Nope. Absolutely insane. That, like, the amount of power that they had swinging in those pools was absolutely insane. But your team was actually able to take. There were 2 teams overall, I believe, that managed to take games off of WSO, and it was your team, and I can't remember who the other one was.
I don't actually. I think it was actually Reason. I think it was Bolt.
I thought your team managed to take a round off as well. I thought it was 2 teams overall.
Yeah, so there's basically they ended up the tournament with 2 losses. Bolt, I can't remember if he beat Problem. I think it was Problem he beat, because Shax ended it undefeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bolt beat Problem. Yeah, that's right. And I managed to take a game off Hurricane. So the only player on that team that was undefeated was Shax. But we, I mean, honestly, they were still an absolute powerhouse. It was monstrous to fight.
Yeah.
You've got, again, an Evo champion in there. You've got arguably the best Kami right now in Hurricane. And then you have Shax, who is like top Laura, like absolute monster. I mean, their name was very, very appropriate. They were WSO, like, hyphen, final bosses. Like, very appropriate. Like, and they always say winner stays on went through in that pool, and Reason went through. Shout outs to Merseyside as well. You had Dova Chief, the Chun-Li player. You had Bolt Zelmoth, who's the Ibuki player, and you had Stick Broke Vega, who played Mika. Even though you're called Vega, you picked Mika.
Playing a different character.
But shout outs to them. They did well as well. But obviously that pool is stacked, so that's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, like if we would have drew WSO first, I'm pretty sure they would have taken, like, even if it had B2F, you know, anyone different, I'm pretty sure WSO would have teared around in a very similar fashion. Again, they are a really strong team.
I think if you drew WSO, you just kind of had to accept that you were probably not.
You're going to drop a couple games.
You're not getting first. You're definitely not getting first.
Yeah, you're going to give that up. But the teams that got through in the end to the finals were Kent, Burn to Fight, so your team, WSO, and Team Reason, which I would say 3 of those were incredibly expected. Kent was obviously a dark horse. We've been over that. But I think from our pool, like, all 3 of the teams that weren't you could have gone through. I don't think Kent were that big of the underdog, but they were definitely an unexpectancy.
I was going to say, I think, without sounding too big-headed, I think that the one that everyone expected to go through in that pool was Burn to Fight. Like, without a doubt. Sure. We were seated at number 1. Like, it was, people expected Burn to Fight to go through. I think any of the other teams in my pool could have went through. Me personally, just looking at the team members, the lineups, the matchups, I thought it was your team that were going to go through. I thought it was going to be Middleman and Burn to Fight that was going to go through the top 4. But again, Kent coming out of nowhere and beating us. I was like, jeez. And they actually did super well, so they got through.
I mean, I was talking about the qualification process. Our pool was really, really, really close in the end.
I mean, have you seen the scores?
Yeah, the scores. If no one looked at the scores at the end, Burn to Fight got second, and then in third place, it was, I think it was us, right? I think we got third in the pool. But the very first match that we played, the game that I had versus Sully decided who went through. Sully won that, and they were one game up in the end over us. It was super, super close in the end. I'm still proud of that. I think that was really good.
Oh yeah, there's so many small deciders, and like, you don't realize it until you looked back.
Yeah,
like look at that single game was the deciding factor, and it was like one of the first games of the day.
Yeah,
it was the deciding factor whether or not we actually went through.
Like Ken almost made it happen for us. If I hadn't dropped the game to Sully, we would have been soaring through the skies into finals. But it wasn't to be. But yeah, I think that pool was really interesting purely because of how close it was. Because Sully was in my chat saying, "Hey, boss man, I'm sorry to say this, but if you don't win 3-1, you're out."
Well, yeah, I remember it because we'll pull the clip up of
yeah, we'll pull the clip up.
With fighting Faxu. But we were in the call, me, Brian, and Sully, and we were talking, and we were going, "Wait a minute," we were going,
Yeah, Sully was doing the maths and everything.
Does the score count? And Sully was like, yeah, the score counts. And I was looking at the score and I was like calculating it, and I went, shit, if they win like 3-1, we go out.
Yeah.
And Brian was like, what? And Sully was like, oh my god. So we went and like had like a quick look and like calculated. And when it came to Anna up against Faxu, I was like, if she wins this, we go home. And Faxu was like, oh, she normally beats me. And I was like, oh, shit. I don't want to go home. But thankfully, managed to come through for the boys, you know?
All right, I'll pull some content up so you man can see some videos on screen. Now, we've had blessings from Faxu to use some of his footage if we go through it. But we're going to go through some of the tournament here and some of the matches that we had at Rival Routers. And first, obviously, Carl wants me to pull this up because this is heartbreaking. But bam, here we go, Hollywood. We've got that production quality. Look at this. This is. Oh wait, no, this isn't the one. This is not the one. I apologize. Sorry, boys. No, I've got poor management of my content here.
It does look good though. It does look really, really good.
It looks beautiful.
I mean, for our first running, I'm hoping the guys are, for the 42 minutes that we've been live, I hope everyone's enjoying this, having a good time. We've got more stuff to talk about. It's not just Rival Routers. There's other topics coming up.
Yeah, we're going to bring some other stuff up along the way. We're just going to talk about Rival Routers for a bit. So this is the deciding match that we had versus Kent. We had to win this 3-1. Now, Faxu and Anna, they do play together a lot, in general. They've run sets between each other before. And so they know each other's play styles. And Faxu ate a couple of V-Trigger 2 hits that I was very shocked that he ate here, but supposedly Honda can't headbutt these, the V-Trigger 2 overheads. But I'll just play the clip here just so you can see. Just before
you start, sorry, we're planning to run this till about 7 o'clock.
Yeah, until about 7,
Rusty asked, so it's about 7-ish. We're planning to run to another hour and a half, probably.
And then when it cuts off at 7, we'll host one. I think one streaming at around 7, so we'll send you guys over that way. It's a loose plan in it. If we could talk about something for a little bit too long and get carried away, but we're going to try and end it around the 7 marker.
Yeah.
But this is the clip of Anna versus Faxu. This was this is, in the end, it's the last round, but Anna almost made a very impressive comeback. She was down a lot of life before this. She made this entire comeback.
So obviously, gets the swing. It's like stun. And he tried to headbutt that there, and it doesn't beat that.
Yeah. Oh, man. That is a cautionary tale of finishing the plate in the most simple way possible. If she would have done any other combo, that was it. That round was over. She went for the swag.
Yeah.
Big tragic.
I said it on my stream because I actually watched this clip. As soon as Faxu took the throw, I knew he was gonna butt slam. Like he had a bar. What else was he gonna do? Get it in the corner. I was like, he's gonna butt slam.
He knew it was coming.
Yeah, just chill. But it's so easy for us to look, just as sort of reassurance. It's so easy for us to look at the clip afterwards and go, well, I would have done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
In the moment, it's so different, as I'm sure everyone's aware. So making a mistake like that or getting hit by something like that is understandable, because there's pressure, it's tournament. Totally get it. I mean, I've made some mistakes. I mean, I've made some mistakes, but that have cost me my tournament run. Like when I was playing Gamerby in 2018, all I had to do was press V-trigger on hit, and I forgot I hit the wrong buttons, and I died. Great.
The thing about, because we of all the teams, I don't think any of the other teams made use of this rule, but every single team was allowed a sub. So it was a 4-man team. You were allowed to cap out at a max, but not many teams ran it. They were like, we'll just keep 3. We're not going to sub anyone out. We're going to go all the way through with this 3-man team. But because I ran the Master of the Midlands tournament, I wanted the top 3 to compete. I wanted Anne to be a part of the team because I thought like the way that she played was so impressive in that tournament. Because like, who expected Anna to get top 3? Like I certainly didn't. I'll say that wholeheartedly, and it was super impressive to see her get a good score. So we subbed her on, but I feel really bad for subbing her on again because I didn't realize that her girlfriend was around at the time. So like we pulled her away from like one-on-one time with her girlfriend. Like, you've got to play in the tournament now.
I'm the team captain. I'm calling you up.
Come on, get in. I'm sorry, Anna, if I pulled you away from anything.
I was gonna say she's just trying to enjoy her free time.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like, mad harassing her to play this damn game online. Like,
but there is a very specific set that I want to watch. I've got Faxu's stream up here, and I wanted to watch the B2F versus Kent set because I've yet to watch it. I haven't seen how that went. I haven't seen your match versus Faxu, and specifically, I haven't seen Brian fight either versus Smokey Hayes.
Well, funnily enough, Brian, just before you watch, Brian hard carried us both in that fight because
he almost OCV'd. I remember that bit. I did watch towards the end.
Yeah, so Smokey Hayes beats Sully. We'll watch that. I lose to Faxu, so we were like riding on the idea that this was maybe going to go 3-0. Brian came through, managed to beat M16, then managed to beat Smokey Hayes, and unfortunately, again, another thing that made Brian regret the Nikali pick is Nikali Honda is a cursed
It's matchup. Horrible.
It's a horrible matchup. Brian nearly does it. He fights Faxu, I think, twice in the day. I think he fights him twice anyway. But regardless, he was like doing fine. I was really surprised. I was like, this matchup was meant to be horrendous.
Yeah, because I tuned in. I tuned in towards the end when Brian was fighting Faxu, and I was, I'm not fantastic with the internet of Nikali's matchups, but I immediately thought to myself, there is absolutely no way that Nikali does well in this matchup. He's going to lose to Honda. He just does not have the range to fight it.
No, and you've obviously. Like even though you're still relying on V-Trigger, like the only thing you're making even different there is like he's gonna just have to start checking like crazy dashes. You still beat the shit out of him as Honda. So the fact that he managed to bring it to 2-2 and nearly win that as well, props to Brian, man. Like I think everyone in the team pulled did the work they had to do. It was really cool.
So I'm going to pull up the first match between Sully and Smokey Hayes here. Shout out to both of you guys for the fantastic play all day. I haven't said anything off stream to Cal, but if you ever want me to pause the video, Cal, just tell me to pause and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Can do. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when I streamed this, I paused it like every 2 seconds, but I'm not going to do it to you. I'm not going to do it to you.
So we got a guest appearance.
I mean, I can't lie. I thought Sully was going to absolutely smoke this guy, but...
I didn't. I expected Sully in the first of one. I expected Sully to go ham on a lot of these people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm not quite sure.
Like, yes, it's done. It's over.
I'm not quite sure how this matchup goes. Ed's matchups, I'm completely lost. Other than versus Cody.
Yeah, that Hosanto there that whiff for the anti-air is gutting because he like micro walked forward and made it whiff. Sully likes the backdash there that creates the situation that he can actually anti-air you, but he walked forward a tiny bit and it whiffed.
But again, I think Smokey's head was like really, really impressive.
For sure.
His neutral was really strong, and I think the good thing about Smokey was watching his gameplay. That he was really good at using the fireball, which I don't think Ed's fireball is very good, but he was really good at using it.
The other thing there as well is the neutral jump medium kicks from Smokey were working out there because I think Sully, especially, I think he said it in the call, he's trying to dash under, and he kept getting walk forward.
Oh, okay.
And Smokey was landing the jump medium kicks as well. So there was a couple
there it is
of
again. That's
Sully.
the meaty fireball setup that I kept seeing from Smokey all day.
Yeah, that meaty fireball setup became iconic, man. Every time I landed it, I was like, God,
it was really nice.
Never seen that before.
He's really peppering with the hands in this matchup. I'm noticing from the crouching medium kick. He's constantly trying to keep Zeg. Like there again, he's constantly peppering with the hands.
I mean, the hands thing for Ed is kind of ridiculous. I think it's low-key kind of dumb.
It is pretty dumb. It's not quite Honda levels of plays itself, but it's really, really strong.
Oh, for sure.
See, I actually want to go back there just slightly because you brought this up on your stream before. There was a small play here from Sully that I'm pretty sure both of us are going to disagree with, in that Sully puts himself in the corner here off of a jump.
I know exactly what it is because I spoke out it for like 5 minutes. So in my thinking here, right? So this is great. So he manages to get the switch around, puts him in the corner, no bother. He immediately puts himself in the corner.
Yeah.
And even though he manages to reverse the position here, like that's great, even though he loses there. For me personally, I never put myself in the corner. I don't care if it's like, oh, guess for stun. I'd rather maintain the corner the entire time.
Yeah, exactly. I would rather always maintain the corner than... Because the mix-up, it can never be worth it unless you are completely certain that left-right 50-50 is going to kill them. Like, with Urian, sometimes you can do it, but like with Zeku, there aren't really any setups I can think about that can set up that situation.
But that, and most of the cast in this game thrive on having the ability to rinse like okay on you, and it gets worse in the corner. So like, if I don't know if Ed really falls under that, to be completely fair with you, but against most of the cast, putting yourself in the corner and then making an incorrect call and then getting knocked down yourself is normally where you lose.
Yeah.
And it's because you just decided to go for like a wonky setup where you could have just maintained the corner and whittled away at their life rather than hunting for stun. The other thing I was going to say just before we move on to my game is unfortunately Sully goes for the throw bait. So he was trying to set up, he threw him like 2 or 3 times in that round. And then to stun, he did EX run into the run overhead, which baits throws. Sully does it quite a lot and it does work. And literally on reaction, Smokey Hayes DPs him and wins the game. And I remember like I was like, Jesus, man, like fair play.
So this next match, I've still yet to see, so I've got no prior knowledge of this match, but I know that you end up losing this one. And the Honda matchup is a weird one, which we'll get on to later. But I just want to see how this plays out. For now, you can fill me in as this goes through. Like, what
your voice has gotten super deep, man. I feel like you're about to start like soul singing. Is it me too? Bro, you got like super deep. I'm not even joking. Yeah, I was gonna say Boggins and witness protection.
Has my voice gone strange? Hello,
you
guys?
sound like you're like you're like a hacker man on the internet.
I was wondering what you were talking about for a second. I didn't know what was going on.
You went like super modulated, yeah.
Give me a second. I'll try and fix this.
You can pause the save. Actually, no. I'll explain. So I have to play Faxu here. So this matchup I think is kind of even. I start off by like basically just throwing fireballs, looking for the neutral jump, trying to anti-air. That forward heavy kick's kind of a problem, but managed to score the crush counter, and all I want to do is maintain the corner in it.
Oh, sorry, I'm back. Am I any better, or am I still destroyed?
Back to normal, bro.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So I've learned a lot more about this matchup after the tournament. Thankfully, we ran some games, and I've learned a lot. I meant to sway that butt slam, but I just didn't. I didn't press the button in time.
That setup there, I actually want to go back for a sec.
Yeah, go back.
Just go back a couple seconds here. So it's when you throw the rock up. Now, the V-Trigger 2, I would say for a lot of players who don't play Cody, is fairly unexplored. A lot of players don't know the situations.
Agreed.
This situation that's coming up here, this one, the heavy kick ruffian, this isn't real. I don't know if Honda can answer this with anything that moves quickly enough, but I know that some characters can punish that knock up as it put Cody in a bad situation from it. But Faxu down back in here, in particular, is a really bad decision to make because you now have precedence on the next move if Cody knocks it up. Because you want to try and get away from that rock immediately. I don't know what rock you've thrown up here, but if you just push Cody back one time on block, a headbutt, anything like that, you avoid this incoming rock and you deny that mix-up.
Yeah. And the other thing as well is, I know it's hard to tell what kind of rock the Codys have thrown up, but like as a good rule of thumb, they're going to throw the one up
that's on top of you, usually.
The distance that you're at, so the one that's on top of you. So at this distance here, this is like a medium.
That's medium head-on.
Sure. Like heavy is full screen, medium is literally mid-screen, and light rock is right in front of you.
Light rock would have been between the distance of these two characters. Now, if you were expecting Faxu to try and contest his turn here, like you could have thrown the light one, expecting him to push into your space, but Faxu's going to down back here and block. And when I fought Faxu, he's also super defensive against this V-Trigger.
Yeah.
There are a lot of situations where you can fight on his setups.
So I normally do that when they've sort of proven that they're dying to approach me. So say they go full screen, I've got pipe. So I'll throw light rock up rather as opposed to heavy, right? Because they're not going to chill full screen. They're going to try and push me. So if they do actually push me and manage to create some kind of offense, if I mess up an anti-air or a dash check, the rock is sometimes there to cover your arse. Because sometimes it'll hit them and you'll get a nice trade.
Yeah, for sure. You get these weird trade combos and stuff.
But yeah, in this instance here, I've played Faxo a couple of times. Yeah, he didn't really try. Other than that, but like he didn't really show me that he was going to do that. Do you know what I mean? I tried to sway that.
Tried to go for the bad sand there. I don't blame you. Sometimes you got to try.
Yeah, and through the sand, got caught. Pardon me.
So you got round one. So I'd say at this point you've got the appropriate data. That was a fantastic buffer there. Set hit up at the standing heavy kick. Got corner precedence. Faxu's pressing buttons here.
Yep. Managed to get the crush counter, which was nice.
Like, jab buffers against Honda are so strong because his jabs, usually a lot of Honda's buffer jabs looking for headbutts. Cody can just stand right outside of that jab range and buffer his jabs. Honda cannot do anything about it.
Well, that was something that I found later on. So after this tournament, Fax and I, again, you can sway that there. Fax and I ran games, and I learned a lot about what my options are. And we'll go into detail later about our difference in playstyles, right? But I've
got to go back for that. That was beautiful.
I'm a huge advocate for holding level 2 Zonkon jab. Like, I do it nearly all the time. Other than when I'm pressuring someone or when I'm on the back foot. If I'm in neutral, 99% of the cast, I'm permanently holding jab. But in this matchup, which is one of few, the crouch jab buffer is actually useful.
Went too far back. Whoops.
Yeah, you went miles back.
I went way too far back there.
But the crouch jab buffer is actually super, super useful.
Yeah, like there are specific characters where crouching light punch as a buffer gets you super far, specifically because it doesn't extend the hurt box as much as a standing light kick.
So,
oh my god, that's so beautiful.
That's something I've labbed a lot. And there's something that this is not to expose Faxu, but it's actually something that Hondas do quite a lot. Is they try and set that forward heavy kick up and the forward heavy kick up, and they normally have a tell. In this instance, Faxu's tell there was his neutral jump, right? And he's done it a couple of times. So what I decided to do was, as soon as I saw that, I would stand at a specific range, and all I would do is wait. So if he jumped and I wasn't ready to anti-air, I'm willing to block the jumping. If he dashed, I'm willing to just let him dash and press stand medium punch or something. Like, I don't care. I'm using my life as a resource because I truly believe this is what he's going to do. So he throws the forward heavy kick. I'm standing at the right range, and because I know it's coming, bang, whiff punish. It's not like a crazy just like, oh, I've reacted. In my head, I've set this situation up with the tells that have been shown on the screen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's my
experience.
explanation.
Because I would say, like, you are one of the best players at using stand heavy punch as a whiff punish tool. You do it in a ton of matchups because it goes into so much damage.
Yeah, and again, if you're an advocate of level 2 Zonk like I am in terms of like how much you want to hold it, it's just free damage. It's free damage. It's meterless. You know, you get to save the bar for some useful things like EX Fireball. But so here you can look. I'm controlling the corner, right?
Yeah, there's a ton of pressure going on here.
So he manages to land the forward heavy kick, which is fair. I take the command throw. I really don't care. It's like, whatever. He doesn't dash. That's fine. This is where my mistake happens, right here. So this is fine. I can kill him here. I could have done zonk into upswing and then normal swing, and I probably would have killed him.
Yeah, most likely. With that amount of health, for sure.
When he's advancing like this, right? He's charged, right? So he already beats my rock. He starts advancing on me like this. I know he's looking for forward heavy kick, and I went to contest it. And I died for it. So essentially, I as soon as he starts walking forward at an aggressive manner like that, especially when he's charged V skill 2, I have no reason the forward heavy kick. Yeah, I still had a bit of a life lead. I could have just chilled.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I need to contest him. And as soon as I pressed the button, he did forward heavy kick and I died for it. So again, sort of like first to 2 format, you take that knowledge.
Yeah, you can take that knowledge and you can move on with it. But in a first to 1, you can get, because it's very difficult to make perfect adjustments in a first to 1 setting. You have to get a game against them first.
Yeah, and it is what it is. And I said it before on my stream, but like, you know, if that upswing, the Zonkin's upswing, normal swing that I didn't store, if that had killed him, great. But like, I didn't store it, so I made a mistake there. And Faxu made the right calls to capitalize and ended up winning the game, which is, you know, I mean, that's just how this game goes, you know. And it's props to Faxu for managing to capitalize on that, you know.
So the next game in was this the This is the Brian versus M16 match, right?
So this is where Brian nearly OCVs the team.
So this run was really strong by O'Brien, and I think the thing about Brian was if I would have fought him later on in a different pool, because we fought round 1, I feel like as the tournament went on, he started playing better on the Kali, and at the start he was a little bit like rough around the edges.
For sure, yeah. And again, this pick was one that he made sort of
completely
on the fly, like we loaded into game 1, and he was like, I'll pick Nikali, and then he's character locked, you know.
A character lock is Brian's biggest scare.
It's a counter pick. So like normally Brian's so tight with DPs. Normally that would have been
this. I mean, we saw that there. I don't want to hop on it too long, but M16 goes for a meaty sweep. I was very confused for an extremely long time at what he was trying to do there.
Yeah, I think probably just some kind of misinput. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
At the end of the day, it happened. You know, it's like it's what it is. You know.
But again, you can see it in this matchup. Nikali just really struggles to contest this mid range because there are so little opportunities for Nikali to press because of Chun-Li's agency on screen. He really doesn't have room to press mids. Standing heavy kick is really the only normal he has to go to. But again, Chun-Li outranges that too.
That was beautiful though. Like
that
he
was
knew
a very good
obviously
series.
the Chun was wanting to follow the fireball, but I don't know how he knew. He knew that she was gonna jump, and he met her in the air and then dashed under for game. Like
it was a very nice series at the end. I feel like V-Trigger's where Nikali must win this. Like it's that's the win or lose of this matchup, getting the V-Trigger access for the improved mobility. Sure.
And obviously Brian being Brian, like his footsies are just kind of...
I was about to say, Brian uses the stomp a lot. There's a good punish there on the standing heavy kick, which gives Chun-Li the corner. Tries to bait the throw there with the forward medium punch bait. That pushes Chun away. It's like an auto shimmy. But Brian's never going to fall for that eye fight. He won't tech very often.
Nah, he's not that kind of guy. Again, he's very... Like, Brian is super scientific. He's super like... what is the logical, correct decision?
Yeah, exactly. What's the least risk-intensive option here? And then just again, tons and tons of stomps.
There are times where he takes risks, but like most of the time they're super calculated.
Yeah.
And he's super scientific. So these decisions he made there, like that final V skill would have given him V trigger.
Again, I think a testament there to Brian's footsies was he was able to out footsie Chun with nothing but the Seismo, which like that's not easy. That's very difficult to do.
Like you wouldn't say he won that set because he used V trigger.
No, for sure.
You know?
No,
he didn't win that set because of that. So I think he has to play Smokey Hayes now, if I remember.
Yeah,
right.
he does. He does have to fight Smokey. I think this one actually goes quite close in the end.
Again, it's those fireball beaties, man. It was like I've never seen that before, you know.
Crystal, that CFN is M16. He was the third player.
There's a reason why I'm not reading it out.
Yeah, I'm not reading that out either.
It makes my throat coil inside of itself.
We're trying to be semi-professional on this broadcast.
Semi-professional. There's still going to be the odd swear, you know. I'm
yeah, for sure. You got to sneak one in every now and again.
Holding it in.
But I kind of expected you guys. Again, I expected you guys to kind of just roll over these dudes. I'll just put it bluntly. I thought you guys were going to roll over them quite easily.
Well, this is my thinking. Was like genuinely just from the initial looking at their team lineup and whatnot, the only person I was bothered by was Faxu, because I've beaten Smokey Hayes before. I played him in a tournament. It was like a double KO a while ago. Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, if I draw him, I'm okay with that. And I thought if Brian draws him or Sully draws him, they'll be okay. Obviously, he completely destroyed that expectation. I was like, Jesus, he actually did really well. So completely fair play to him. In terms of M16, I didn't really know him. But I don't mind fighting Chuns. I fight them on CFN a fair bit and whatnot. So I was okay with drawing him. I'm fairly sure the other guys were fine with drawing him as well. Faxu was the one we were all worried about because it's Faxu. He's a very skilled Honda, and it's Honda in first to one. So we were concerned about that. But the thinking was, if one of us go down, realistically, two of us are going to be back to gather the data on him and then probably win. Yeah, win the the first to one. But that didn't happen.
One of the
two of
things
us went down super early.
Obviously, you guys haven't played yet. This happens against me and Smokey in particular. Did you fight Smokey all tournament? I don't think you did, right?
I did actually. I did.
Oh, did you fight him in the finals?
Yeah.
The one thing I noticed about Smokey is he likes V-Skill 1. He uses V-Skill 1 a lot.
You mentioned this in the Twitch chat, and I reiterated to him when I was streaming, is that V-Skill 1 is not the call for Cody. It is not.
No, for sure.
V-Skill 2 is the reason the matchup went from Cody favor to, like, probably slight
Ed favor. It's probably slight Ed favor now, yeah. But I find V-Skill 2, like, even outside of Fireball matchups, it gives you a ton of interesting meaties. We're seeing the Fireball meaties here from Smokey. V-Skill 2 gives you access to some absolutely absurd corner meaties as well.
I was going to say, that round that ended there, Brian landed that charged overhead, and it's +2, and I think Smokey pressed. Because I remember him saying in the VC...
Yeah, I remember that as well. That's plus.
So look at the pressure right now. This is like...
Yeah, like Brian's going ham on this. I don't feel like Smokey was controlling the space too well in this matchup with his buttons. And he was overcommitting a lot of the time right into what Brian wanted him to do.
And at this point, you've got to make a crazy comeback.
You've got to do something crazy to get the comeback here, especially on the Kali, because you're going to feed him nothing but V-meter now. I think Brian's pretty open to just spend everything on V reversals.
Which he was willing to do. With V-Trigger 2 for sure. He was willing to do that. Nice air-to-air.
Like, nothing but down backs. Like, if Smokey wanted to, he could have thrown him for 3 here. He could have thrown him 4 or 5 times, most likely, before Brian cracked.
Brian 100% was willing to take the throw there like 3 times, for sure. But
that's a decent crush counter, but not far away enough to convert.
Makes the drop, unfortunately.
I mean, not close enough, sorry. But yeah, Brian took that one quite smoothly. I thought that was close. I thought Smokey got around there. But again, I just think Brian's footsies in these matchups are like paying off quite a lot. Because he was playing hitbox as well in this tournament, wasn't he, on the card?
Yeah, he's still dedicated to using hitbox, so...
Which I find, like, obviously for motion characters, I don't feel like there's as big of a gap. But for charge characters, obviously, hitbox is completely and utterly optimal if you want to play a charge character.
Like, so I own a hitbox, and I know Hoji plays Cody.
He does, yeah.
Cody on hitbox. And I've trialed it, and I don't see any advantage. I don't think
there's a big difference for hitbox on motion characters.
Nah, it's purely preference at that point. I think, especially for the way that I play Cody, with how I hold the controller, like how I hold jab, the way that I want to approach Cody I think is slightly more optimal on pad anyway. So I'm cool with it.
So this is the last one of the set. I can't remember how close this is, but yeah, Brian almost pulls through.
I think because they play twice. I'm fairly sure they run this game, this matchup twice in this event, and I can't. Yeah. One of them is close. I think the other one's not so close, but it could be this one. It could be this one, but regardless, this matchup's kind of scuffed.
So after this one, I'm going to go into the finals of B2F versus WSL from NQS's channel, and then we can cap off the overrated section. But
absolutely, yeah, we'll cap this off, then we'll move on. We've got other topics to discuss because we've still got like an hour. But this was definitely the set that we wanted to watch.
Yeah, this was the one that I wanted to watch because this was one of the outcomes that no one expected. So Brian playing really aggressive there, jumping in right after a throw, going for the command grab.
He said to us before the set started, round 1, he was going to go super ham with command grabs and then not command grab for the rest of the set.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's a good idea. I think he gets the kill here. I was very shocked he managed to kill.
Faxu's down backed a shit ton in the games that he's seen already, and he said, I'm going to command grab him for 1 round completely and then not do it for the rest of the game.
Which I think was a great call, because Faxu just mentioned in chat, like, I can't believe what he did. No one, he didn't expect it at all. And then as soon as this round was over, nothing but respect.
This was the game plan. So nice. Get some of the pressure there. The other thing to note about Brian as well is he's been whiffing like stomp, like there. He's trying to bait headbutt. Because he says if he does a seismo...
looks like seismo.
If he does a seismo, Faxu can headbutt him. But if he light stomps, it recovers too quickly. So he's trying to bait.
See, I think Brian's overextending slightly on his buffers because he did crouchy medium punch there +2 and he tried to do a delay buffer. I don't know what he pressed. He might have been like another crouchy medium punch, but he's walking into a lot of EX butt slams because of it. Faxu just seems open to carry on doing EX butt slam here every single time Brian ends his pressure with pushbacks.
Yeah. The other thing to notice as well is round 1, Faxu's anti-airs were just not there.
Yeah, they weren't there at all.
Round 2, he anti-aired pretty consistently there, and you saw the control he had in neutral because of it.
That was a really, really, really good news jump on that headbutt. That was
I forgot he even did that. So he's got corner pressure now. So all he's got to do is try and maintain it. Obviously, Faxu managed to get out with a headbutt. It was quite smart.
But yeah, that was really unfortunate for Brian there. I don't know what he was trying to bait with the neutral jump, but he managed to just get the EX headbutt out of the corner there.
I think he sort of decided here that he didn't actually want V-trigger. He just wanted to
just keep under off of him.
Misinput with a command grab there.
Faxu's going really ham here with headbutts because I think Brian is either jumping over them a lot to make them essentially safe on Faxu's part, or he's just eating them and not contesting very well. All of this V-meter is going towards keeping Honda off of him with hands, which I think is a decent idea. Faxu ends up doing the same thing as well for Nikali's pressure.
I like how Faxu V-reversed up there to keep him in the corner. I think it was actually super smart. I don't think you need V-trigger here at all.
I like that forward dash to chase Brian's backdash as well, because I don't think Faxu had a meter there, so backdash was completely safe. There was no threat of an EX butt slam.
So this stage, obviously, now Faxu's got V-meter, a V-trigger up, so I don't really know what the approach is for Nikali in this instance.
Wait until it's over. He really doesn't have any options here until that headbutt's gone. And then that dash up throw, that was really, really ballsy. But it worked out. Brian committed to I think he was committing to a Seismo there.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he committed to Seismo. And I don't know, even if Faxu had sat still and blocked it, I don't think it would have been super impactful. I think he just wanted a V-reversal. I think he was just trying to get that final part of meter to get a V-reversal.
Yeah, most likely.
But no, good stuff. I mean, again, this was a set that no one expected to go this way, and honestly, props to the Kent team.
It went completely down to the wire. In fact, you played really well the whole tournament, and
absolutely.
Again, I think the format here was absolutely perfect for this kind of a team, and they showed that they could really pull it off in that environment. I'm just going to quickly pull up the finals here because I can't actually remember too much about the finals, but your match in particular with Hurricane. It was a small dispute.
I didn't win in the finals, so I won in semis, I think.
Oh, was it semis? My apologies.
Yeah, so in the finals, we got smoked like 3-0.
There's a specific match that it was between you and Hurricane where there was a small dispute between the connection. You had to post a lot of evidence in defense of it, right?
I had to post some evidence. I had to defend myself in terms of it being unplayable was the word. And we came to the conclusion with me and the TOs that it was essentially playable, like it was a playable connection, and the result would stand. Which obviously I was happy about. I would be kind of upset if they decided to revert that, because that was their first loss of the day, and it was our team that handed it to them. Yeah. And I think if that had been reverted,
that would have hurt morale quite a lot.
It was potentially laggy, and there wasn't really any evidence. It was just backed by someone's word. I don't think that's incredibly fair. So I'm glad we managed to sort it out, and it came to an amicable solution in the end, which was all good.
So I've got this is the grand final here. I've got up on stream. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Now, obviously, we aren't focused on just the wins. I think that I think you can take more away from losses at the end of the day. I think there's more you can take away as a player from losses a lot of the time. You can build up on that. And obviously, you played in it, so you can feel free to give me any reasons as to why, or like things that could have gone better in terms of the gameplay. Obviously, there's a little bit of speed up here because of CFN, but if there are any kind of notes.
Against Shax, so I had to play, when I beat Hurricane, I didn't have to play Shax. So I've played against Shax a lot, and we tend to go quite even these days when he plays Laura.
Yeah,
I actually struggle with his Kami more, so I know how he likes to play, and I have some really nice anti-tech for what he does. I don't actually know the Zeku specifics, but this, from what I've seen, this doesn't look that good for Zeku. Honestly, I think when Laura gets started, I think it's a nightmare for him to get out.
Yeah, but, I'm likewise as what you said. I'm more scared of the Kami pick. Even though Laura does really well into Cody, I'm just more scared of Kami as a character because she's so consistently strong. Laura, I feel like there are more openings to kind of fight for your turn against Laura. Against Kami, though, it all seems kind of infallible and very difficult to contest, especially in the first where you've only got one chance, where it's not a full set.
Yeah, but when I had to play Shax, I took away some data, thankfully. Unfortunately, I think against Sully wanted to maybe dash under, and he ends up getting supered for a game. But with Shax, when it came to me playing him, a lot of my anti-tech, I just messed up. I just made mistakes, and he capitalized, and he just completely destroyed me, which was fair play to him. Sully's saying there that Laura Zeku's actually fine. It's like, it's not a bad matchup, really.
It's not a bad 5-5.
But yeah, fair. And then I think this is where I have to play Hurricane, I think.
So is this the run back between you and Hurricane now?
Yeah, so this is the run back. So I won the first one. I think I won it 2-1.
Yeah.
And the main factor was I checked his dashes. For some reason, I was checking dashes really consistently to this day. I didn't let anyone dash. Like Bolt, the reason I beat Bolt Strike in the losers finals was I checked all of his dashes, bar one. But in here, I basically checked Hurricane's dashes, and I was stopping the dive kick approach completely. In the run back, I don't know what changed, but I stopped checking the dive kick approach as consistently.
Okay, so you moved your attention to the ground slightly, and let the dive
there's a couple of dive kicks that get through that I'll tell you whether or not I actually pressed the button, but I was just too slow because I wasn't ready. even if I pressed, I was still like just not ready for it. I think the score is 2-1 again. I'm getting more familiar with how Hurricane plays. I've watched a few of his games now, and he stands at a specific spacing when he wants to do dive kicks. I've been getting to know him a bit better in terms of how he's approaching this matchup specifically, anyway.
I find in this matchup one of the tools that's really, really strong for Cammy is a standing heavy punch. Cody struggles to whiff punish that button quite a lot. It's from that range specifically right there. Everything's too slow to catch it in time.
And what I've been doing is not holding level 2 Zonk for this matchup because I want my crouch jab.
You should have jab.
My crouch jab 4 buttons like that just in case. So I managed to get it. So I got hit on backdash recovery there, so there's not much I could do. He
throws again, taking that throw, completely good idea. I agree with it.
So he put himself in the corner there.
Yeah, so back to mid screen, which is fantastic for you. Especially now you've got V-trigger activation on the way, and Hurricane doesn't have his.
Yep.
Hurricane might be looking at a 2 V-trigger round here, potentially.
So I was really surprised he didn't V-reversal there. But the throw worked out. Fair play. I 100% thought he was going to do it.
Really good tech for that there. Obviously, Hurricane didn't do it there, but a delayed V-reversal against that rock throw is really strong because it makes option selecting against that delayed V-reversal way harder because you have to commit to a jab quite early.
So he managed to bait my dive kick there, and my V-skill there. That was the first one he baited in the day. Again, take the throw.
Just take the throw all day against Cammy. Nice. Answering the dive kicks.
So he's not going to V-reversal here because I'll put him in the corner, so I wasn't. I was just expecting a DP probably. And I get caught. This is where it's kind of scuffed for Cody, just because you're that low.
Now you're completely out. Cody's neutral with pipe. He's not that great. I'd say it's a bit. Again, it's what you said. It's a bit scuffed. You have to fish with that button right there to get big damage. You're looking with crouching heavy punch. It's easily confirmable, but it's also huge. It's a great buffer option.
And in that instance there, on that note, because I was so heavily looking for like a stand medium kick, I was not ready to hit his dive kick.
You weren't ready for the dive kick.
Wasn't ready. Okay,
that dash there, that was perfect timing. Obviously, I don't think he saw it or anything, but just dashing in.
Yep.
Yeah, I see what you mean by getting caught by the dive kicks now. It's happening quite.
Because if you watch the first, obviously we won, but if you watch the first one, I stop all of the dive kicks. Like it doesn't get a single one on me.
There's the dash. Now I assume that in your head right now you're like, right, I've got to look for the dive kicks a little bit more, and then out of nowhere there's a dash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's hit me with like 2 dive kicks. I'm thinking, fuck, I need to readjust, and then he starts playing the ground.
There it is again. He's starting to dash a little bit more now.
And then now that I'm looking for dashes, he now does that, and I died. And I should have seen that coming because he just built CA. But I do remember hitting the V skill as he hit me, so I was way too slow. But I tried to react, and I just got clipped.
And just slightly off.
Yeah, off by a tiny amount, but it's all good, man. Like he made the right call. I should have expected it harder once he presented dash a couple times and then built CA, because the way he won that game was he hit me with something into CA, right? And it so happened to be that he landed a dive kick. So it might even be wiser for me to block rather than even try and contest.
Yeah, just take him on block and just take the following mix up. So the final game was between Brian and Problem.
Yes, that's right. And Booney, don't worry about it. We're planning on finishing around 7 anyway. So
yeah, we're going to cap off around 7. We're going to host one. One's doing a stream later with I think the game conferences that are coming up later today. So we'll host
Fall Guys trailer. You know,
a little bit of Fall Guys, spicy.
That's what he was talking about. We're playing last night. That's all he was talking about. He's like, I can't wait for the Fall Guys trailer, man. So we're gonna see what happens in season 2.
Bro, we're all invested. We're ready for this season 2 reveal.
We won 3 times last night.
We're getting big dubs.
That's ridiculous.
I've lost my title as Hexagod. But the last game here between Brian and Problem. Now, I'm not very certain on the college matchups. He's not a character I'm well researched in. The most matchup experience I've got is from Saf, Afro Sam. So I'm really not sure how this matchup goes, but I'm just going to assume it's not that great for Nikali.
Yeah. So to not expose Brian specifically for what he told me in terms of his thoughts, the main compelling reason he was going to pick Blanca was for Problem.
Right, okay.
He explained it to me, but in short, his Blanca will beat the style of Bison.
Okay.
And that was his main reason for picking Blanca for this. Obviously didn't go for it, and then we did actually run into Problem.
It
goes how you would expect.
Yeah.
It goes how you would expect. He has to take kind of mad risks.
Yeah, because I can't assume, like, again, it's just Nikoli's buttons. I don't understand. Oof,
Yeah, it gets
that was a
backdash.
big whiff. I just don't understand how Nikoli deals with this mid-range here. He just doesn't have anything to press again. Has to
Again, I think you have
override
to chance stuff like backdash and strings just to get space.
Yeah. Oh, he whiffed another command grab on the air reset. That's so unfortunate. I think that was a cancelled command grab, actually. That wasn't even a tick throw. I think he cancelled it.
I think he overbuffered it. I think he got negative.
Yeah, he must have. Again, hitbox early days. Still, he's only been playing it for like a month or 2 months.
Yeah, and again, Nikali, he's not even touched Nikali since he came back. This is his first instance of even playing this character since he came back.
Double dash there to catch the back dash. The back rise. It's a bit risky. It's not real, but it worked out.
Air sayers, man. So clean.
Yeah. The problem is he doesn't have to care too much about anything at range here. It's only Seismo and jump and dash, really, that's going to reach him. There's the back dash there. He didn't check for it.
He basically completely controls neutral up until the point where V-Trigger gets activated, and even then he's still at an advantage.
Like in this situation, with it taking so long, I would just raw V-Trigger activate.
Yeah, he's wanting a situation.
There we go.
He
got it. So he's pushing towards corner now, and he gets Oki here, so it's a decent spot. I thought he put himself in the corner there.
I think he dies.
Does he actually die for this now? One more mix-up. Standing light kick tags him.
And that was it. That was the end of the turn.
That was it. That was the result. It was a 3-0. Obviously, I mean, it's still BSO, and they've got such a highly condensed amount of players that are super strong. So it's like, I think a lot of those games, your game with Hurricane was close. I think Brian obviously was probably the person you'd expect to drop a game there just because he's switching controllers. He's only been on that controller for a month. He's playing a character that he doesn't really play very often at the moment.
Yeah.
And that matchup is also garbage.
And again, we played them earlier. We did take a game. We took one off Hurricane. And in the run back, obviously, they proved, that they're still the best by winning all the matches. But, I mean, to get second place, I mean, I'm happy with that. I mean, as a team,
yeah, for sure, that's a fantastic showing.
I'm happy to get second,
So I'm going to say that to cap off of Rival Raiders. I think we've done a good job here recovering stuff between our perspectives. There was something that me and you wanted to bring up in particular. I've been thinking about this ever since you told me someone told you that all of my accounts on CFN were your Smurfs.
Literally, every single time your name gets brought up, someone asks me if it's my account.
So,
like, the first one was Veggie. It was mental.
The first time that were brought up, I would have completely agreed because me and you, it's like 6 or 7 months ago, like around a year now. Me and you played, I would say, pretty much 1-for-1. We were super identical in the way that we played, but I decided to. I took a break from Street Fighter to move to Grand Blue for a bit, and when I came back, I readjusted my style quite heavily to not mimic other players, but take on elements of other players that I thought I lacked in quite heavily. And your style, I think you've also moved across specifically in the way that you treat level 2 Zonk as a tool, because I think you're the best player in the world at the moment for making use of level 2 Zonk by far. Because you've done a lot of things in regards to that special.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to talk over how our styles have changed over the last 4 or 5 months and what we've been practicing.
Yeah, so I feel like the main point to make in terms of how we've went different routes with the character is that this season specifically changes to Knife and adding the level 2 Zonk has allowed Cody play to be separated, because beforehand you always took pipe because there was zero reason to take.
Completely.
You didn't have that crouch medium punch that you've got now.
Yeah.
It ran out way faster than it did before. Knife throw cost more, all that shit. So essentially, there was no reason at all to pick Knife, and there was no level 2 Zonk. So the play was so singular in terms of its approach, where you basically held Zonk sometimes. You mainly just buffered into Ruffian, and everyone used the same VT2 setups. And then with
the addition, the V-Trigger 1 buffs, I can go over those shortly, but the level 2 Zonk, I feel, has created a split in players who are really, really good with Zonks and their timings and holding them correctly, and players who still play like it's Season 3 with a singular Zonk. Because that level 2 Zonk has changed his damage access so much. He's so scary now without meter, because he has, I'd say, probably the highest damage access in the game, meterless now.
He's got some of the highest damage access without meter, as well as he's got he's got a really, really strange feature with level 2 Zonk where a lot of the instances where if you use level 2 Zonk, you get more damage than if you would burn meter on it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're actually equaling if you burnt 2 bars, which is so crazy. So in that instance, if you're gonna hold level 2 Zonk, the sort of side effect of not only having ridiculous meterless damage, you're just saving bar. So rather than like, oh, I need the damage, I guess I'll burn bar, you're like, well, all of my bar goes on EX Fireball so I can get in. Or
you can save all your bar for pressure.
I can cash out a super and just like kill you, right? And not be worried about it.
Yeah.
Or as you put it, the big one, rather than not even getting in, a lot of Cody's corner pressure, a huge part of it, which is really, really useful since they changed Stand Fierce to be 6 frames, is you get some really nasty, like delayed frame trap stuff with like button, like stand light kick, stand heavy punch, EX Fireball. And that creates a situation where you can like sway the V reversal, throw, shimmy, whatever, right? And if you've just got access to all this bar because you're not burning it on getting damage, this pressure's nuts. You know?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. If you've got all that meter spare.
I think that the simple thing of like, well, I'm just going to focus on level 2 Zonk as my neutral approach. It changes how you can actually use the character, and it makes some of his situations feel super wonky. You're like, holy shit, how has he always got EX Fireball? It's because none of my bar is going to anything else.
So my specific thing is, when and where did it click for you as a player that you were going to make a big adjustment to your style to incorporate the level 2 Zonk into it? Because I remember you talking in your Discord, you were really looking for different ways to grip the controller for a while as well, like how to manage the level 2 Zonk correctly and always have it up. Because now I'd say, again, you said earlier, 90% of the time you've got a level 2 Zonk up now. You don't give that up very often.
It's mainly matchup specific or player specific that I'll give it up, but most of the time I've got it. Essentially, how it started was when it came out, I noticed immediately that the damage was super high, right? And I'm already holding Zonk quite regularly as a player. Like I didn't hold it as much as I do now, but I held Zonk quite regularly because there was a point that MQS made to me when I was still like learning a lot, was that I mainly buffered into ruffians, and a big part of that is if I mess that up, like I'm eating damage for it.
Yeah.
So I switched it a lot to having Zonk, which just made it -2. It's whatever. If I messed up the buffer, I'll just take the throw. Like I don't care, right? So I had access to Zonk a lot. Then the level 2 came out, realized it was ridiculous. It put me outside of throw range.
That's one of the biggest things about it, for sure.
Which was a huge thing to me because there's still a lot of people who still automatically tech to beat a delay.
In that very tournament, it happened in that tournament that we just watched.
Happens in that tournament, right? People still do it, and that's if they do it, I'll take advantage of it. I'm not relying on it though. I'd rather it land on hit. But so the thing for me was deciding which button to hold was a huge discussion. Yeah, as Karate Man said, that guy's like my main like mentor, training partner. Like I discuss all of my ideas with Karate Man, with Jam Zanshin, and we went through many an idea where I switched controllers. Again, I went to Hitbox for a while. I went to Ryon. I went to the Fighting Commander. I bought Scuff controllers. Like I spent a lot of my money that I was supposed to save on controllers to test different grips. Like I was willing to change controller layout in the menu, like in the game, just to find an optimal way to basically constantly have level 2 Zonk. Ended up settling on the standard DualShock, as well as the way that I can hold the controller, which I've showed off before, is I curve my index finger around so I can still access my mediums, and I use the base of my thumb to still buffer off light kick, and I just use my middle and my ring finger to hit the bumper and trigger, and that's it.
So, again, because you play on pad, the grip game, because I play on stick, I'm a boomer, I just use stick. Your grips have to change a lot because you're working with triggers and face buttons. I'm just working with face buttons. My Zonk timings and my Zonk holds are much simpler to do, but yours in particular, because you're a pad player, they are much more complex in the way that you have to grip. You have to change from a claw grip to I don't know what the standard grip's called, but you're switching from two different grips in a match.
So what I tend to do is in neutral I have a grip, and then when I'm on the back foot, or when I'm in a pressure scenario where I don't think I need the Zonk at all, which is most of the time, my grip is of like a standard.
Yeah, it's a more standardized controller grip.
Yeah, so I do switch it. I do switch mid set. The other thing I'll mention as well, is I have a V skill button as well. So that with my curved finger, there's no way I'm hitting V skill. but I've put it on L1 on the DualShock, so that I can always access V skill anyway. So
yeah, if any coders are watching, if you don't have a V skill button, put one on immediately. It's the best decision you can make as a Cody player. Everyone should have a V skill button on Cody.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for Rush G, I just used the standard DualShock 4. I went through like 8 different styles of controllers, like pads, sticks, fucking hitbox, and I ended up just settling on the controller that I had anyway, which was the DualShock 4. So
I had no idea you brought that many controllers to look for different grips.
I spent so much money on controllers to find what was right.
Jesus.
So much money. And so basically there was that, and for a while it was the debate was, do I hold heavy punch or do I hold jab? Because I feel you need your mediums. I think your mediums are like your best pokes,
the core,
your main buffer normals, access to your V skill. I was like, these are your most important things. The debate was, do I take V skill 1 into every matchup and hold stand fierce so I still have an anti-air? Or do I hold jab, change my grip, which was the biggest issue actually, so I had to get used to that. Change my grip and have access to a new crush counter button, which is sick, and my stand fierce anti-air. Ended up after like months of switching constantly that the jab was the more optimal of the two. And my neutral got built around essentially having crouch fierce to wing for crush counters, as most of the characters in this game have. Poking with stand medium kick and like checking with light kick. And that was it.
It's a strong neutral plan.
It is really strong. And I think as well, like I said, when I know I need my jab, which is, it's not that often. When I know I require jab, I can switch back to a normal grip. And it's not a problem. But when I got used to holding the controller that way, I have access to some of the highest meterless damage in the game.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's like, I think it's optimal.
I think the way that you play, I need to incorporate more of the level 2 zonk into my game plan. And I've done that specifically because you've started to do it so much, and I think it's a core to success with Cody as a character, especially in certain matchups. Like you say, you need that in certain matchups, and in some matchups you don't need it as much. You can keep the jab up. You don't have to hold the zonks, but in some, it's so important to keep that up.
And it's actually like it's a big reason why I stopped. There's again certain matchups like Cammy, even Chun-Li to sometimes is I've watched you utilize crouch jab buffer, which I really rate. And
love that button.
If I'm like, is the jab buffer as well as the dash check more important than the raw damage output that I can put out?
Yeah.
Is it more valuable, as well as like, do I not need the meter that much to get in? Like, there's a couple of things to consider. I'll switch to more about how you play.
Yeah.
Which is like slower approach to neutral, a lot more crouch jab, a lot more buffers off that button.
I gotta go into that shortly.
Yeah, so basically we'll go into how you approach it now, because obviously I'm literally the level 2 zonk advocate guy, right? And my game plan's built around that.
Cal's game plan is, I would say, you pilot Cody more aggressively. You look for bigger damage in all of your conversions. You want the big damage swings. So before, like, again, 7-8 months ago, I think as a player, I was way worse. I don't think my neutral was as strong. And whenever I fought someone with better neutral, be it one of the people who actually pointed it out to me, not through words or anything, but by beating my ass so much, was One. I fought One in long sets, and I thought I was a decent player at that point. And I finally, I was mates with One. I was like, we need to play, and we played some sets, and he demolished me for the first few. I think we did a first to 10, and it must have been like 10-3 to 1 or something. And I felt crushed because I was being beaten. Not, my defense was it was okay. I was mainly being beaten that mid screen every single time I would give the game up in footsies because I was making poor decisions. And I realized that when I get beat on the ground, I go completely blank and I just throw EX zonks because I kind of I get lost in thinking. I'm like, all right, just the EX zonk. I don't have to think. So when I took a break and I moved to Grand Blue and I came back, I was like, okay, if I'm going to take this game seriously, I really do have to adjust the way I think. And I didn't play too much for 2 months when I came back. I was playing like once, twice every week. But the main thing I was doing, I haven't really told anyone this. I haven't even told you. I was studying your replays. I was studying Pax's replays. And I was studying Keith's replays. I didn't research Hoji very much. And I didn't research Poifaru, or there's another Japanese Cody who I've forgotten. But Persona, it was mainly you three that I was researching.
Yeah.
And I borrowed so many neutral habits from Pax, and I wanted to work in the level 2 zonk game plan that you hold, but I didn't think I was ready for that. I feel like I had to get down the mid-range interactions and the neutral first, and I really wanted to do that. And the best person that I could have researched off of at that point, and it was lucky he came back at the time, was Pax. Now, I don't think Pax is the best Cody in Europe. I think that's probably down to you. But I think Pax's neutral is top notch, but he has a couple flaws as a player that I feel like he doesn't attend to properly. But I took on so many elements of Pax's neutral game, specifically with a standing light kick, because as a player, I always thought that you had to go for big damage in neutral. You had to be hitting with mids and fierces. And then I watched Pax play, and Pax did nothing but standing light kick for 40 seconds. And I was like, this is really, really good against the majority of players because it controls that mid-range so strong. You can't whiff punish it. It catches dashes, and you can anti-air in time. It does so much for you in the neutral, and it bypasses the necessity to have to constantly react to dashes, is what I like about it.
Yeah.
And if I'm playing mid-range and I'm only getting 106, I think it's 180 damage if you get a ruffian buffer at a standing light kick. I think it's 180, 170. I can't remember how much. But if I'm getting those small payoffs one by one, if I'm pushing you to the corner with those, I don't mind as much at taking those small damage payoffs as long as they get you to the corner and I'm beating your dashes and all of your like really quick like EX moves, like, you know, in like the Cammy matchup. If I can stop your EX hooligan consistently because I'm buffering standing light kick and I've got time to V skill 1, I'll take that. I don't want to fish for big damage in that matchup. I just want a small payoff. Like Chun, again, you mentioned it earlier, correction light punch buffers can carry me in that matchup. You can't standing heavy punch. You can't forward medium punch. You can't press these buttons that Chun is like known to have that are insane. And I slowly started to interact more in the mid-range with characters because of these small adjustments I was making, and through playing one again in the last few months, I finally started to equal out with him, because before again he demolished me. He absolutely demolished me before, and now I finally go even with him. So I feel like I have improved in that neutral aspect, and that was the main place I wanted to improve. But there is a secondary thing that I've completely forgot to bring up, in that I've gone full-time knife. I've gone full-time knife now, which Cal obviously disagrees with. We have a disagreement, okay? We can't agree on everything. But
to be fair, though, it's just to chime in. It's not that I'm like, it's garbage, don't do it. It's more the idea that, like, the way that I approach the character, I don't think knife would work.
Yeah.
Like, the way that I truly believe that Cody's optimally played, I'm not saying the only way to play him, the way that I think is most optimal, especially for the way I think, knife doesn't work for me at all.
No, I think your V-Trigger game is... Your V-Trigger 2 game, sorry, in particular. It's... Because you've labbed V-Trigger 2 stuff. You've fully labbed the VTC rates. You rarely waste a VTC now. That was something you looked into a lot.
Yeah, that's a big thing, actually. Sorry to cut in, but
no,
a big thing for how I've improved, talking about going forward. Level 2 Zonka is the most impactful thing, but a huge thing that people don't talk about enough is Cody's activation routes. There are some that are like super, super optimal. They are literally 50-50s for 300 damage either way. Like they're G level activations, and there's like 3 of them. And for a while, I was just like, oh, well, I'll just throw stun heavy kick and activate like any other V-Trigger character. But there's an optimal way to get VT2 to work for you, and it took me a while to get that down.
So like I know the big one, which is sweep. Activation on block, that sets up a 50-50. If it crush counters, you get a really scary setup. If it hits normally, you get really strong Oki. It's always good. It can never be bad. I don't know what the other ones are that you mentioned.
So the other ones mainly, without exposing everything, right?
Yeah, okay, go on. If you want to keep some stuff under wraps, feel free.
No, I don't care. You know me, I don't give a shit. But like the other ones mainly is so you've got forward heavy kick. First hit of forward heavy kick, you're plus 11. So you get a tiny micro walk, and what you either get is you get command throw. It's really not that hard to time. You can easily lab it. It's not difficult. Or you can go for a button. Obviously, just immediately press stand medium kick if you want. You'll catch backdash, jump, whatever. Or you can do if they're walking back, you can do micro walk forward, a crouch short, and then TC, jab TC, and it the whole thing combos. It'll catch them low, then you get the 4 hits of the turret combo. And what you can do is on the 4th hit of the turret combo, you throw rock up, medium rock, upswing. That's a setup. You can immediately heavy kick Ruffian to knock them out of the air. You can medium kick Ruffian on block, and then
it gets covered by the rock.
It gets covered by the rock.
And you can hit the pipe as well, can't you? I think out of that, if you hit the pipe horizontally on the just frame time, and it hits their rises as well, if I remember correctly.
I think do that as well. Combo. Yeah. It's a setup in and of itself. So when I do that, I tend to go for the crouch short mostly. But Jab TC activation is the same. It's plus 13. So the micro walk's a little different, but the situation is basically the same.
It's the same
if you activate. So those are like my 3 main activation routes these days.
Because I think a big overrated one, just pertaining to VTCs, is EX Zonk, because very specifically, if you use that as a poke from mid range, only the first hit's VTCable.
Yes, that's right.
If you VTC that very first hit, you are so far away you can no longer threaten a command grab. Even if you try and walk forward, a lot of characters can walk out in time.
Yeah, and the other thing that's for me is the 3 activations I've mentioned there are all meterless.
Yeah, that's
you're burning a bar for an activation that is similar to the jab TC and the forward heavy kick, but you're slightly further out, so you're walking further.
Yeah, you got to walk in by more.
So your options really are just like meaty.
Yeah,
you know, it's like standing.
You don't really get much else. You're going to do crouching light punch most likely.
So you're burning a bar for a slightly. It's plus 15 on block if you do EX Zonk, right? Activation. Yeah. So it's almost too many frames to work with from. It's a
very difficult to manual the grab at that point.
Yeah, you're further away than the others, you've got more frames to kill, and you're burning meter for that. It would make more sense to me if it was less advantage and you were closer for the cost of burning a bar, but that's not the case. So if you do have to activate off EX Zonk, sure, right? If the situation's there and you're taking it, okay. It's just not as optimal as the other. Like Sweep is the most optimal. It's plus 4 point blank. It's a 5-frame command grab for a looping command grab setup, or you get obviously crouch medium punch into whatever the hell you want. You can do into jab TC, whatever, and get that same setup I was talking about with the medium rock. These setups are meterless and they're way more optimal. The EX Zonk, you're burning a bar for that.
You're still getting the coin flip. You don't have to spend any more. And using that bar and B trigger too goes a fucking long way as well. That's the big thing. Yeah, it really takes you far. A big thing that we were talking about in the Change of Styles and the knife is that well, the knife was garbage for 2 seasons straight. I think it was 2 seasons, and it only got good in the last patch because they finally reworked it, because it was a fucking joke beforehand. I'll swear for that one. It was a joke. It was probably the worst V-trigger in the game, in my opinion. Jury V-trigger too, but it was definitely worst 3 in the game. But they finally buffed all the frame data in it, and it finally became viable as a tool, because it did have some strengths, but they just weren't good enough to make use of. The big ones were in the mids. The crouching medium punch and the standing medium punch got huge buffs on the startup. They both got 2 frames knocked off of their startup frames. So crouching medium punch used to be an 8 frame plus 4. So even though you were popping your V-trigger, you had a plus 4 on block normal. It was 8 frames. So you couldn't frame trap 3 frames out of it anyway. It was garbage. It was useless. Yeah. Standing medium punch was a very long range whiff punisher, but it was 10 frames. It was way too slow. Crouching heavy punch outside of V-trigger is faster than that. I think. Wait, I think it's 9. It's 9.
It is.
Yes, 9.
But then you've also got to factor in the recovery of those buttons as well.
Yeah, the recovery on them is huge as well.
So you've got a 10-frame button with like mad recovery on it. Like you're just asking to lose if they jump. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, sorry, Damos. It was 11 frames. Yeah, it was even slower than 10. Sorry, it was 11 frames, and you were supposed to use that as a whiff punisher. Like, no, that's not going to happen. But they finally buffed those, so they're a lot quicker. Standing medium punch is now 8 frames, and crouching medium punch is now 6. And that was a big change to the way that his pressure structure worked, but they also gave him a couple of other buffs in terms of damage access, in that standing light punch now combos into EX Ruffian, which that is such a godsend, because before knife could not confirm into damage with meter at all. Yeah. You had to do meterless zonks, that was it. Meterless Ruffians or zonk.
Yeah, Ruffians, yeah.
EX Zonk was like the Oki end of mid-screen if you wanted to get decent Oki with bar. But now you can get EX Ruffian, you can get decent damage out of your frame traps, and you can get good Oki along with that, because before that was just not a possibility with the knife. But the big thing, the big cheap thing, you already know, if you press crouching medium punch on block point blank, that is a tick throw that catches backdashes with another mid. That, yes. In terms of Street Fighter 5, that is essentially unheard of. That is very, very rare to have. I think Rashid has that with his standing medium punch, but beyond that, I don't think anyone can do that in the game right now. Mid catch backdash without an air reset. It's near impossible.
Can it really easily.
Yeah,
it's not
you
hard.
Get standing light kick conversions off of it into Ruffian. You can spend an EX Zonk if you want to get good Oki. It's really, really strong. And obviously, if I'm forcing that tick throw every time, you have to answer me. But it's not just that. Get low checks now. Low check was always the good utility. That was the reason you pick knife always. You get crouching light punch because of that extended knife.
Yeah.
And You get that out of any tick throw situation. You can do that out of the Xonk now, which is huge. And in general, it changes all of your point blank pressure to be a little bit stronger. What I feel the pipe does not affect that area. It affects is the mix-ups, but not the pressure itself. The pressure is majority the same, but all of the mix-up situations you get with the V-Trigger 2 are stronger. But me as a player, personally, like this is where me and you split off. Yeah. I am not very good at coin flipping. I'm not very good with command grabs. I always do them wrong. People jump my command grabs. I don't feel like I'm good enough at cementing the idea to not jump in my game plan. But if you chuck a shit ton of push frames at my face and say, make use of these, I can keep someone pinned for a while and I'll rinse the regular throw game. That's more up my alley. So it works for me as a player so much more.
Yeah.
But
it's just a difference in approach. Like I actually I like the coin flip in terms of the command grab, but it's less about the command grab itself. It's more about the fear that situation would imply.
You can set up, you can force them to respond.
Well, this thing, if I knock you down in the corner and I stand like range 1 away and I throw the rock up, nearly everybody just jumps. And it's like, I don't have to command grab you. Like, I can upswing and just kill you.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean? I'm
this.
creating situations based purely on your fear of something that I might present. And it's capitalizing on somebody either completely freezing or freaking out. And you just make the right calls accordingly, you know?
So I think one of the... What was I going to say? In terms of our player styles evolving, I feel a big part of that is... Again, what we've just mentioned, it's all within the V-Trigger choice. Because it's Street Fighter 5, innit? Like, it's not going to be like night and day in terms of the difference. It's still Cody at the end of the day. We're still throwing at EX Zonks. But you can see the difference between me and Cal now, specifically because of the mid-range interactions that I feel we go for. He's more level 2 Zonk. I am more small payoff with lights. And as soon as you see V-Trigger 1, you know it's not Cal.
Oh yeah, no, like if you come into my stream, if I stream like really, really irregularly, right? But if you ever come in when I'm streaming and you mention about what do I think about VT1, I'll rant for 10 minutes about why I don't like it. Like, don't get me wrong, like I see, like from an objective point of view, especially after speaking to Boggins about his uses of it, his opinions of it, as well as the style that he implies. No, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? He employs. Yeah, that's
employs,
it. I combined the two and I got it wrong. The style that he employs to utilize VT1, it makes sense and it works. The style that I tend to go for, it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work, especially comparing how we approach neutral. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So. The difference is there in the V triggers. There's a slight difference in how we approach neutral in terms of, like, again, we're not crazy different, you know, we're not like super different.
It's not like, I know what you mean. It's still Street Fighter.
We're not like completely different players. Like, there's things that you do that I've completely stolen. Like crouch jab into certain matchups. I'm like, I don't care about level 2.
It's really good.
I need that, you know. So there's situations where I definitely change how I approach neutral. A big thing for me in terms of like that kind of like minor change is for the longest time, and I'm sure you remember, this is talking about the beginning of V-Skill 2's coming out.
I know it's coming.
You and I hated Sway for the longest time. I was a complete V-Skill 1 guy for the longest time, right? And so are you.
We had a couple of disagreements, I'll say, with certain take. Because I feel the reason we hated it so much was because we saw players who were saying, this sway is very strong because I can just randomly sway.
Right? No. That's a big thing. But the biggest thing for me, and I talked about this in my Discord the other day, is I got super annoyed because the big reason people were happy about this, it was not about anti-tech, it was not about, well, we can OS V reversals, it wasn't about, oh, we can sway certain pressure strings and get full punishes. It was nothing to do with that. The big thing that came out was, or two big things that came out was, oh, guys, I can randomly sway Bison's scissor kicks. This is a 7-3 now.
Man, I wonder who said that.
What? And the other thing was, it was touted as this like ultimate anti-fireball.
Yeah, it was like
we got for, and it was a complete lie.
Because the thing that we have to keep into account as well, this is the vanilla sway. If you guys don't know in chat, it got buffed twice to be better against fireballs. It was nowhere near as good as it is right now against fireballs. They buffed it immensely. They buffed I think it was the collision box detection, but it also used to, if you ever swayed something and then did the follow-up, you were very likely to lose with your follow-up. They buffed it, the first time I believe, was to make it more consistent against fireballs, so you trade at the least. didn't work. They had to buff it again. I don't know what they did because the patch notes read off very strange.
Well, the thing was, I think it was something to do with more like you just lost your invincibility basically when you
you ran out of invincibility by the time it got there.
And it would always clip you. Like if you would sway like a Guile fireball, even if you got the follow up, the fireball would hit you in the back, and you were still in neutral, but you went even. It was like, well, what did we even gain from that? You know. So that in that respect, I didn't think sway was what they touted it to be after the buffs. And honestly, like you're the biggest influence for me in this one, Boggins. Is like. I still didn't believe in sway until you were like, no, look at these buffs, like look at how it's changed, and I watched you utilize it, and I thought, you know what,
it's pretty good.
I think it's okay now, and then I started to use it, and there are matchups like honestly, I'm like 50-50 with V-Skill 2, V-Skill 1 now. Like I switch regularly.
I use V-Skill 2 more than V-Skill 1 now, and one of the big things, by the way, Smokey Hayes, let's go answer this question. They call me Boggins because of an old Minecraft account that I had. Cal's actually the person who made the nickname of.
Because I was crying laughing when you spawned into that game. I was like,
God.
Boggins, and then like he's fucking... Yeah.
But it stuck around, so everyone calls me Boggins now. So again, you can feel free to call me that if you want. But a big thing about the V-Skill 2, a huge thing about the V-Skill 2, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree, it impacts how good your anti-air game is so much. Because you lose the V-Skill 1, you have to use his normal anti-airs, which I don't think I was as good with until V-Skill 2 came around, because it forced me to get better.
Completely. Yeah.
So like corner neutral jumps, I used to over-rely on V-Skill 1 so much because I was always scared standing heavy punch would get stuffed. Now though, I'm super comfortable with my standing heavy punch. Like Deimos can tell you, I was an anti-air jabber. I anti-air jabbed everything.
If you ask Karate Man in the chat, when we started out training, even now into the later like 2 years and a bit on now, it's probably nearing 3 years since we really started to think about traveling and whatnot. My prime bad habit was anti-air jabbing.
It's because I started up on Cody,
my intro to Street Fighter 5 was Season 1 Alex.
That was exactly the same.
And I never broke that habit because when I went away, when I stopped playing in like Season 2, like I left and he still had it. Then they took it away and I came back and switched characters and I was like, why can't I anti-air?
Why can't I anti-air jab anymore?
And I could not, like my brain... I could not get out of it. Yeah, and then I played Geef for a little bit, anti-air jab, and it completely reinstated the habit, and I just never broke it for like a year. Like it took me a long time. And as you're saying, sway definitely forced me to stop relying on just V-Skill. I had to just actually think about anti-airs.
Rush mentioned that his stand jab and LG anti-air, it's a bit of a weird situation. It works for very strange cross-up attempts, but that's basically what we want to use it for now. If they jump over you and they get in there super close to your head, sometimes doing standing heavy punch is strange because Cody might face the wrong direction when he does it. But if you jab, you're pretty much always guaranteed to face the correct way. So I only use it in those situations personally, but it's not a good anti-air, not anymore. No,
it's not something that I would say is Cody's anti-air. It's like, again, if you tend to land on top of his head and you've gone for like a super deep jump in, it can work. But if you've went for like a normal jump in, you've just jumped and pressed jump heavy punch, I'm not anti-airing you. I'm going to get blown up.
Yeah, know? For sure.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, the V-Skill thing, that was your influence, and I feel like even though, again, we still play differently in terms of how we
still play differently.
Approach neutral and whatnot, we're becoming like those things have become more unified, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel as though as it progresses, like I'm trying to put in elements of your game plan into my game plan because again, I still think the level 2 Zonk game plan is the way to go, and I need to improve that in my neutral against certain characters. And because I feel if you were to put my style and your style together, you'd have pretty much the perfect Cody in terms of player style.
I agree because there are there are matchups and there are players where I feel like your approach, which like my version of it is like a super unrefined.
I should have mentioned that it's super specific to the matchup as well. The way, yeah. So
the way that you play, I feel like you've got it down to a T. I feel like my version of yours is like it's not yours, isn't it? It's like it's an unrefined version, but it's optimal for certain matchups and for certain players. The way that I play, that is like all level 2 Zonk, hunting for whiff punishes, hunting for big damage. For the most part, I really, really feel works.
Yeah, I'd rather have that style for certain matchups, because there are some matchups I fall flat, specifically because I'm not doing what you do in those matchups, hunting for whiff punishes on like big whiffs, like half as much as I should be.
Like Abigail Stand Fierce is a great example. Abigail's the character it sounds crazy, but it's my most comfortable matchup by a mile. It's a
I play
matchup
far too reserved against Abigail. I lose a lot of Abigail matchups because I'm not doing enough.
Talking about Pax, and this is not me like calling him out or anything like that.
Sure.
I still think he's a great player. But his main issue when I watch him play is he's so reserved. That's
exactly what I think.
And there's moments where that's fine. That's completely fine to play reserved. But it's to a point where he just gives them space and they just do what they want.
He can give the game up because he's waiting for the opponent to walk into what he's doing. So he'll sit there, he'll buffer jabs, buffer standing light kick, and his game plan or his concept is, you're going to walk into this and I'm going to tag you with it. But if you just don't do that, he won't press at all. He will not push into your space. He'll wait for you to come to him. And like, fair play, CFN, 90% of players walk into that. No one has patience on CFN. Yep. But the minute someone starts to contest that correctly with a slow, neutral game plan, I feel Pax kind of gets a lot worse in matchups.
Yeah, well, it's like if I'm to play him in the mirror, which I have a few times now, if I play his game of like, I'll contest you neutral, I'll walk at you, I'll push you, he's better neutral than me.
Yeah.
Like, flat out, he's got better neutral than me. He's got better awareness, he's got better timing, he's got better neutral than me. But if I don't play that game, and I land a single button in level 2 Zonk, I've nullified everything he's just done.
Yeah, exactly.
Every single little trade and little thing that he's done, I've nullified.
You can knock it all about in one combo.
I've slowed down and looked for a button into level 2 Zonk, and I've now murdered him. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I think, again, approaching it reserved, it's not a shot at him at all. Approaching it quite reserved is fine, but there's a limit. And when you're just giving up damage for no reason, I don't like that. I don't get it. Like,
yeah, no, I completely agree. But obviously, I don't want to get into other players too much. But again, Pax.
No.
There's nothing bad against Pax that we're saying. Who I think Pax is a sick player, and he's one of the first players I really enjoyed watching as well. So
agreed. I still look at him for reference on certain things and for certain matchups. He's still sick. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in the way that we all approach it, he's the most reserved.
For sure. I think he's the most passive Cody.
Yeah, for sure. That's all I'm saying. He's the most reserved.
But another topic that you wanted to bring up was you've actually got a match against Bedoyance coming up. I want to talk about this before we cap the stream because it's coming up to 7. I want to talk about this specifically because there's a chance he'll pick Honda. Now, I need to go to the toilet really bad, but if you just tell the chat what's going on with... I'm going to quickly
explain. So I've got a 1st to 10 with Verdoyance coming up September 2nd. It's at 8 p.m. UK time. So basically, I've got a 1st to 10 Verdoyance. Verdoyance is a multi-character specialist, so you've got Fang, you've got Blanca, you've got Honda. Like, he's got a number of characters he can pull out. I've played him before, and every time I've played him in tournament, he's picked Blanca. But I have a gut feeling he might actually pick another character. If he picks Fang, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm super comfortable with Fang, thanks to MQS. We play a lot. I'm super comfortable with the matchup. I actually think Cody does fine. So I think I can win that one. If he picks Honda, thanks to the rival routers and thanks to Faxu, like shoutouts to Faxu, I've learned a lot about the matchup, as well as I do think it's even, and I'm going to be prepared for certain things that Honda can present. So in that regard, if he picks Honda, as much as we hate the character, I'm actually okay with fighting it. My main concern is going to be fighting Blanca. Hello. My main concern is going to be fighting Blanca purely because nobody plays this character. That's going to be my main issue. What I think about the Honda matchup, it's even. It's definitely 5-5, Cody Honda. There's things that Honda can do, or rather, how little Honda can do in terms of like how patient he'll be in neutral and just present just like headbutt, that nothing happens in the matchup. Nothing happens. It's very stale.
Sorry, did I miss the introduction to this to the Honda matchup talk?
So all I'm saying is I might nip to the toilet while you do it. But,
yeah, sure.
Basically, what I'm saying is the Honda matchup is 5-5 because it's super stale and nothing happens. So I'm going to leave you with that.
Go on, I can bounce off it. Don't worry, go. Okay, so Cal has a 1st to 10 coming up with Verdoyance. He was offered to do this from somebody on Twitter, I believe, a French player. And the big reason I wanted to bring this up was because me and Cal personally believe that the matchup is more towards a 5-5 than it is a 6-4. However, I do think a majority of players will tell you that the Honda matchup is actually a 6-4 overall because Cody has the great tools to stop EX butt slam. He has really good normals to contest headbutts on block. And he can answer a lot of Honda specials quite easily, and the V triggers as well. He doesn't struggle to answer these specifically because of, again, things like sway, V skill 1, and you can get around his V trigger 1 super easily with these tools. You don't have to use like V skill 2 every time. You can pick V skill 1, and that gets around his V trigger 1 like a lot easier. Sway is a bit harder, but it's still doable. We gotta go. I've been dying for the toilet for so long. I was shaking around everywhere. But a big thing about the Honda matchup is, in particular, the only player that plays it the way we think that makes it 5-5 is Verdoyance. Because Honda's buttons against Cody, after labbing them in training, after looking on hitbox viewers, after trying them out myself, Honda can fight Cody in the mid-range incredibly easy, as long as he doesn't open himself up to on-block headbutt situations and EX butt slams. If he does not overcommit to those things, though, he gets ahead in that matchup very, very easily because his normals are so strong at contesting what Cody has. Wow, perfect timing, Cal. Perfect.
What did I
timing.
miss? What was the timing then?
So I was just talking about how as long as the Honda players don't overcommit to situations, so you're not constantly doing headbutt on block to give Cody free buttons, you're not constantly doing the X butt slam to give Cody free massive punishment, and you aren't over relying on like the V trigger game, which I think Cody also plays around super easily. Honda fights Cody button for button in that mid range so well, and if he keeps a lot of it to like generic hands pressure, dry headbutts every now and again, not overcommitting though, obviously you got to play the walk game a lot with Honda in that matchup, and keeping it dry with things like jab buffers, standing medium punch to stop Cody wanting to press stuff. That matchup goes from feeling 6-4 immediately to 5-5 because Cody doesn't get opportunities to score free damage very often against that character. He's like an Iron Fortress.
Well, a big part of why Honda's really feel that the matchup is ass, is that there are tools that are removed from the matchup. EX butt slam being the most notable.
You don't have it anymore. It's gone.
But this is the thing: is it doesn't alter parts of your game plan in terms of how you should approach Cody. Like EX butt slam as a tool, yeah, it's really useful. And honestly, I mean, I'm sure you will all agree, it's super brain dead to use and it's mega useful.
Yeah,
right?
it's insane strong.
It's similar to EX Zonk. It's super brain dead and it's very useful. But it doesn't change how you would approach the matchup. The matchup is super stale. It's super dry. Like you said, you match them button for button. And basically the difference is like, are you going to deal with fireballs correctly? Or am I just going to eat headbutts all day? Like, it's all it is. It's just super dry. It's super stale. And it ends up coming to what I think is completely even.
I think it's a complete 5-5. And a big thing about it is, like, we don't have many Hondas in the EU, I'd say. We have Verdoyance and we have Faxu, I believe. Yeah. I'm not really sure where Julie is located, but Air Connection's not good enough to have, like, consistent sets. So I can't run sets versus Julia to get experience. But Faxu is an incredibly active player. He will admit that firsthand. He likes to do a lot of stuff. So him playing lame Honda, it's not really on the cards. He likes to do stuff. He's super active. But Verdoyance he's tech heavy, so he has really, really strong Oki. I feel like he's super good at matchup specific counterplay, which is something that I feel like Faxu lacks in a little bit. I'm not trying to slight you, Faxu. I'm just saying it's just I think something Verdoyance is super strong at.
Difference in styles completely. Yeah.
And Verdoyance is super good at playing lame, but he knows when to turn it on. You know what I mean? He will play lame for 80 seconds of that match, but those 5 seconds where he turns it on, you won't be ready for it.
No, and it's why I thought for the longest time the connection was the matchup was 5-5 because Verdoyance was the Honda that I played, and it was super dry.
Yeah, it's like if you play that dry, it's a big struggle. So hey, like because you've got a match coming up against Verdoyance soon, how would you prep for that? Because you can't prep versus any of the other EU Hondas. You can't prep versus Faxu for it because it's too big of a difference in style, I find.
Well, there's 2 ways that I'll prep. One of them is asking a favor, which might happen. He knows who he is because he's in the chat. And either going to have someone mimic that style, and we're going to train against it and see how it works. The second thing is theorycraft, because if it is Honda, I already know what I should be doing. So Like the matchup in terms of how he plays it dry, I understand what I'm supposed to do when it's as dry as that. I understand that I'm meant to be a bit more fireball heavy. I'm not going to have to look for EX Butt Slam, really. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know
He's not
what
going
I'm
to commit to it
supposed
because he understands that tool is completely gone.
Yeah, and that's how he plays. So, like, in a 1st to 10 set, if he picks Honda and only Honda, I know what I should be doing. If I need the practical experience, there may be someone I can ask that can kind of mimic that style in a sense. But I don't think he will pick Honda. I don't. I'm nearly convinced. Like, I'm like 90% sure it's going to be Blanca, because every time I've played him in a setting where he can pick his character, he's picked Blanca.
Oh, so he always goes for Blanca against
two tournaments I've played him, and he's picked Blanca.
He always goes Blanca against you specifically. Well, that's also a matchup that I feel is quite underdeveloped. I don't know how many times you fought Brian and his Blanca, because I know you guys are fairly local, so you might get to play it quite a lot.
Karate Man knows it was actually him I was talking about, but in terms of asking him. But yeah, in terms of playing against Blanca, when I played Brian offline a lot, when he did actually turn up to Glasgow, he didn't really pick Blanca on me. He mainly picked Nikali. To be fair, he run his Kami against me a few times as well, but like it was actually mainly Nikali at that time. So my Blanca experience is like it's next to none.
Yeah, likewise. I've got experience versus CFN Blancas, but I feel like a majority of the Blancas that I fight in CFN are more about stopping them doing dumb stuff rather than it is fighting the matchup at its core. But from what I've experienced so far, I think Cody has really good answers to Blanca's flow chart options, if you know what I mean. He's super good at stopping Rainbow Ball. He's decent against Blanca Ball because of EX Zonk. It's a punish. And I feel as though I go V-Skill 1 in that matchup. I don't go V-Skill 2. I think V-Skill 1's decent, but not fantastic at stopping some of the V-Trigger 2 mix-ups. It stops some of them, but not all. Yeah,
I was going to say, that's why I would probably choose it, but I want to explore it more just to be safe. Yeah, the other thing as well, just to sort of cap this off, because I know we're at 7 o'clock now, but the one thing I'm going to do, definitely regardless of who he picks, and this is a sort of suggestion and an idea for everybody if you can do this, is the main way that I've managed to improve my knowledge is I've gathered folk around me that are as hungry for knowledge as I am. So like Karate Man is a great example guy in the chat. He's my main guy. No matter what he picks, I'm going to be sitting and discussing this with him at length, depending on what route he's going to go, and we're going to have plans going forward no matter what he chooses. So we're going to have something ready regardless of what's been picked. And if I get bodied 10-0, it is what it is, right? I'm going to learn stuff, but we're going to have ideas going forward of what we want to present. And for Blanca, I'm going to theory craft the living shit out of it just to be safe. And I'm sure we'll come up with some idea of how to approach it. And it's going down September 2nd, Rush G. It's going down on 8 p.m. on a stream that I'll end up sharing. So I'm sure you'll find it.
So, just to know more about it, who is it is it a single exhibition, or are there multiple players in the exhibition that you run?
So as far as I'm aware, this is going to be a single exhibition that's going to be streamed. There may be more on the day. I don't actually know. That sort of part is yet to be talked about. What I do know is it's not an isolated incident. It's not just like me and Verdoin's fighting on stream. This is going to be something that's going to have a lot of UK players fighting against a lot of French players. I don't know anyone that's been asked. I don't know anyone that's confirmed they're going to do it. I know people that have been asked to do it, and they're not sure. Basically, me versus Verdoin's is the first version. It's the trial run of it. So depending on how that goes, you're probably going to see more of UK players fighting French players. So
it's very specific to UK France overall in terms of the content.
Yeah. But it could turn into a super long set. We'll just see how it goes. And hopefully it goes well.
I think, even if the result ends up being unfavorable to you, having that opportunity to get that matchup experience in the first place is so huge, because there aren't many Blanca players in the EU to run off of.
At the end of the day, man, it's not a tournament. I don't care if I lose.
Exactly, like data in it.
My attitude at the end of the day is, if it's like CPT, if it's tournament, I'm going to be upset if I lose. It's going to ruin my day probably. But if it's not a tournament, I don't care. If it's ranked, if it's sets, whatever, I don't care. So even if I get 10 odds and he completely dominates me and breaks me down as a player, I've learned something. It doesn't matter. I have no ego when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it is what it is. We'll see how it goes. You know.
Well, obviously I'll be there and watching. I'll say it on stream, but I wish you good luck for it when it does come up. Everyone else, send your power to SoundBoi September the 2nd, 8 p.m. You said.
At 8 p.m. Yes.
8 p.m. our time, obviously. It might change for France a little bit. But One Step, Laird has just kicked his stream up. We've had a good... we started at, 5? So we've had a good 2 hours here.
It's been great, yeah.
I've loved it, honestly. It's been sick.
It's been quality. Like, wait till we get guests on. Just wait.
Yeah, we're bringing guests on next time. First time, it was just us. We're doing a trial run of this just to see how it goes. Again, I've got to shout out Anna once more because I can't stress how much I am in love with this background layer. It is beautiful.
Absolutely.
She edited herself.
Shout outs to Anna, man. Thank you so much. It's great. It looks great, and obviously, fantastic work. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll work on bringing other people on. We'll make this. I don't know. We'll think about when we're going to do it and schedule and such because Cal's work life and such. But thank you everyone who tuned in today. It's been much appreciated, and thank you for sticking with us while we've been talking about Cody.
More than about matchups and whatnot.
Trust me, I'm on about the matchups a little bit. Thank you everyone. Thank you Smokey. Thank you Steve. Thank you C5. Thank you Devora. Thank you Rush. Thank you Jim. Karate Man. Thank you Booney. Thank you everyone who tuned in. Thank you Faxu as well. You're all much appreciated in chat. I'm going to hand you over to One now. I believe he is restreaming the event for Fall Guys. I think that's what he's doing.
Yes,
I think there's a Gamescom event or something popping up right now. But I hope you've all enjoyed it. I'll work on improving the stream. If you have any suggestions, feel free to @me on Twitter or drop me a DM. I think my DMs are open. I'm always open for constructive criticism.
Me as well. If you can't get in touch for whatever reason,
obviously,
me as well, I'm open.
Plug in the Twitters if you want. Socials. I can't write them on screen at the moment, but I'm Ben LaMedica and Cal is @SoundBoi. I'll write them in chat shortly if you want to give us a follow. I'll get them in the screen next time. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. It's much appreciated, and we'll catch you in the next mayor's office. I gotta say this for the first time. Meeting adjourned. I'll catch you all later. Goodbye. Have a good evening.
Develop my philosophy. Woke up in the morning, told the world to get back off of me. Yeah, and still the nightmares creeping up at night. I'm a fragment in the mirror, seeing black and white. Like who is me and who is gonna take me over? My soul is my soul in the eyes of the beholder. Yeah, and now there's darkness in the chaos. Try to see the light, hope the positives will pay off. Ain't no time for stressing when the time